You are listening to an audio recording of the novel A Metis Far From Home, read to you by the author, Gerald Caron. Chapter 1, The Native Shaman. We are at the beginning of spring in the year 2000. I am Neige Desmarais, a 17-year-old resident of the Metis community of Île-à-la-Crosse, located in the northwest part of the province of Saskatchewan in Canada. As I near the end of high school, my life is about to take a significant turn. This summer, my grandmother's house will be put up for sale, and I must begin searching for a new place to live. My name might sound strange to someone who knows French, as it translates into swamp snow. I got my last name from my mother's family lineage, and it is a common last name in the Métis culture and across Canada within the French-Canadian community. My first name was supposed to be Neige, meaning snow in the Michif language, because I was born on the first snow in the fall of 1982. Yet it got entered as Neige on my birth certificate because it is the same as French, and the lady who registered the birth wrote it that way instead. My mother passed away shortly after I was born, 17 years ago. The circumstances of her death were never explained to me. I was raised by my grandmother in her house, but a tragedy struck when she passed away on January 1st, early this year. My biological father is Lars Anderson, and I have never met him. I know that my parents met in 1980 and got married on June 21st, 1981 in Winnipeg. In the summer of 1982, they were living in Steinbach, Manitoba. I do not know why they separated, but it must have been something serious, since I was not given my father's last name. I have 3 aunts and an uncle, Jean-Baptiste Desmarais, whom I called Mononc, the Michif word for uncle. Mononc used to live with grandmother and me, but he moved out 4 years ago and started his own family. Although I miss seeing him more often, he has offered to let me stay in his home with his wife and his 2 children once my grandmother's house is sold. However, his home is quite small. Noticing how nervous I am about my house being put for sale and the uncertainty to come, uncles suggest visiting a shaman, a traditional medicine man and fortune teller from a nearby native community. Mononc believes the shaman will tell me that everything will be fine, and he may even predict my future to ease my worries. I do not believe in fortune tellers. Yes, despite my skepticism, I agree to meet with the shaman, and as Uncle said, I have nothing to lose. Uncle and I take a long drive to a native community and arrive at a small log home next to a big traditional tent called tipi. The tipi is lit by a fire inside, and Mononc stays in his truck as I walk into the tipi alone. Inside, I see a fire in the center and smoke rising through an opening in the top. There's an old native man standing facing the fire on the opposite side of the entrance. As I get closer, I immediately notice his green eyes. It is rare among North American native people. Suddenly, the shaman addresses me. I will tell you about your present, your past, and finally your future, he says, slowly. I interrupt and tell him that I already know about the first 2, and I'm only interested in my future. He responds loudly, "Quiet." This is when I decided to stop talking. He begins telling me 5 things about my present. Then he mentions 5 things about my past. But when he gets to the future, the predictions become strange and even unbelievable. The most shocking part is when he declares, "I know you are a descendant of a lineage of glorious Vikings. Let no one tell you otherwise." Before my departure, he says, "In the end, everything will be okay. If it's not okay, it is not yet the end." I leave the teepee and find my uncle, Mononc, sleeping in his truck. I wake him up and get inside without saying a word. I am only thinking about what the shaman said. After 30 minutes of silence, I ask Uncle what he had told the shaman about me. He replies that he only mentioned being my uncle and being worried about my future. Mononc drops me off at home. I turn on the living room lamps and light a fire in the wood stove to warm up the house. I am still confused about the whole experience. To clear my mind, I sit down at the kitchen table and write down everything the shaman said. I piece together the events of that evening and eventually go to bed and fall asleep. The next morning, Uncle comes over and we sit quietly. I tell him that the shaman is a fake and that the things he said about me must have come from his imagination. I also point out the shaman's claim that I'm a Viking descendant. It is all a lie. Mononc tells me I should be proud of being a Metis, a descendant of the French Canadians coureurs des bois and their native wives. He says that it makes me both French and Cree, nothing else. As Métis folks, we have our own culture, traditional clothing, and even our own language. He also reminds me that I look a lot like my biological father, a tall, strong man with light blonde hair and bright blue eyes. He has a Scandinavian appearance based on the only picture I have of him. I stop a moment to think about my situation. I have some small savings from my part-time job in my bank account, and I'm soon to graduate from high school. Then I realize that I do not own anything of significant value except for my silver bracelet. I am sure it is made of pure silver because of the stamp on the inside. It has an intricate design indicating that it was made by a skilled person. I have worn it ever since it was given to me by my grandmother when I was 10. I was told it is the only valuable item my mother had when she came back to live in my house. Eventually, it is time to go to bed while holding my bracelet, thinking, what if it is all true that I'm a Viking descendant? The bracelet would prove it, but I have been told all my life who I am. And what if I am who the shaman says I am? Would it make me less of who I was told I am by my family all those years? I fall asleep holding my bracelet, imagining a Viking village somewhere in Scandinavia. Chapter 2. Me, a Viking? Could it be for real? For my weekend job, I work as a cashier at the northern store to support myself and pay for bills. As I live alone since the death of my grandmother, that job provides me with not only a source of income, but also a chance to interact with everyone in my community. I have a good command of Michif, the language of my community, a mix of Cree, which is a native language, and French nouns. My grandmother always spoke with my uncle and I in that language. Not wanting to brag, I can say that I'm quite good at it, and I speak it well. It is Monday, and I must go to school. During lunch, I stop by the library and ask the librarian about books on Vikings. I show her my bracelet and ask if she thinks it could be from the Middle Age in Europe. She looks at it, saying that it has an old Viking style. I borrow the only book on the subject in the library. It is all about Viking jewelry and traditional clothing, but nowhere do I find a bracelet like mine. I begin to think that it may be a rare and valuable piece of ancient art, which could be worth a lot of money. Later that evening, my uncle shows up at the door. He apologizes for the shaman idea, but says he paid $50 and some tobacco for the service. Mononc is now sitting at the kitchen table, wanting me to go over the first predictions of the shaman. I start with number 1. It points out that I like to be with people and talking to everyone. 2 is about my family who worries about me. 3 is about my father waiting and regretting. Uncle adds that maybe my father is still alive and he's waiting for me to visit him. Number 4 mentions that I do not believe in the shaman yet. Number 5 is about a quest for the truth and an adventure far away that is about to begin. Uncle points out that it all seems positive, and he says the shaman doesn't sound that bad at all. Next, we go over the 5 predictions of the past. Number 6 refers to 2 different life-threatening medical situations that have occurred before my birth. 7 points out that I was born on the first snow of October 1982. 8 is about never having met my father. 9 talks about a fire which occurred before I was born, with consequences affecting my life today. 10 claims I was put up for adoption, but he refused. It is becoming late, and Mononc points out I must go to school in the morning. We agreed to discuss the 5 predictions of the future another day. Before he leaves, I tell him about my bracelet, and selling it could allow me to buy this house. Mononc dismisses my idea, saying that I'm tired and starting to sound crazy. I turn off the lights and go to bed. I need to keep my bracelet a secret. I'm waiting to have a proper conversation with Mononc about it. In the meantime, I decide not to talk about it with anyone and even stop wearing it. Surprisingly, nobody notices. Time passes quickly, and one Friday evening I am settling down to watch television. I hear a vehicle in the driveway. I walk to the door to see Mononc's old green truck. I quickly start making tea for us to share. As we sit at the kitchen table, Mononc wants to know about the future predictions. Before sharing them with him, I want to clarify something the shaman said about me having been offered up for adoption, because I remember living somewhere else in a big house with a bearded old man. He had green eyes and a big nose. His wife was a slim lady, but it is very vague in my memory. Mononc advises me to speak with the social worker at the school about it. I then proceed to share the future predictions with him. The first one, 11, is about an object of high value of which I'm the rightful owner, and if it is sold to the right buyer, it would solve all my financial problems. The next one, number 12, claims there are people waiting for me to join their family. Some of them I will find, and others will find me. 13 claims that I will travel further than any residents of my region. 14 in the country of Huatia, thousands will want to see me. People will recognize me in the streets and call me by my name. They will insist on getting their pictures taken with me. The last one, 15, claims I will find love and have a son who will look just like me. The shaman ended with a positive message. In the end, everything will be okay. If it's not okay, it is not yet the end. After considering the predictions, I now believe my bracelet must be worth a fortune and could help me buy my grandmother's house. I am not so worried anymore, and I'm grateful for my visit with the shaman, as his predictions bring me hope. Soon, I plan to visit the city of Saskatoon to have my bracelet appraised and then decide about buying the house or searching for my father in Steinbach in southern Manitoba. I have a few more exams to take before I finish school. Right now, I am expecting a meeting with the school social worker as I want to know more about the adoption and to get more information so I can find my father. I sure hope that she will accept to see me and answer all my questions. The day comes and I'm meeting with a short, older lady wearing a tight dress and high-heeled shoes. She greets me, and the first thing I ask is to see my case file. She informs me that there's an age restriction set by a court order, and I will not be able to access it until I'm 19 years old. Upon noticing my frustration, the social worker suggests I could go live in a foster home for the next 16 months, once my grandmother's house is sold, if I have no place to live. I tell her that I remember living in another home with people who looked after me and want to know who those people were, but she doesn't answer. I demand to be told my father's address and his phone number. The social worker reveals that my father is still alive but cannot tell me about him. She becomes very emotional and points out that she could lose her job over what she's about to share with me. She proceeds to tell me that when I was 10 years old, my grandmother was hospitalized and I was sent to a foster family who wanted to legally adopt me. The social services contacted my biological father for consent, but he refused the adoption proposal and even got a restraining order against the adoptive family. Eventually, my grandmother got out of the hospital and I moved back with her. Since then, my case file has been restricted until I reach adulthood. The social worker's information confirms the shaman's 10th prediction, whereas my father refused my adoption into a good family. I am left feeling devastated. Chapter 3. Getting Ready for Adventure. It's almost July, and I'm planning my trip to Saskatoon. To travel for free, it is common where I live for a man to stand on the side of the road while holding his right thumb up to catch a ride from someone driving their vehicle down the road. It is called hitchhiking. I believe I can easily go for free from my community to Saskatoon in a little more than 6 hours. If I leave early, I believe I can arrive there by noon. I plan to visit a jewelry store, sell my bracelet, get the money, and take the bus back home. I might even be back on the same day. Sometimes I do not realize how complicated things can get. I need to remove all my belongings from the house by July 1st. I brought some empty boxes from the northern store where I work and have organized my clothing and other items. I realize that most of my pants and shirts are too small, and many of my underwear have holes in them. All my usable things fit into 3 boxes, one for winter clothing, one for personal items, one for my fishing and hunting equipment. I set aside my backpack, my water bottle, my favorite pocket knife, some clothing, and most importantly, my silver bracelet. I call mon oncle to pick up my 3 boxes with his truck. I grab my backpack and have a last look at my old house. The thought of prediction 11 about an object I own that is worth a lot of money keep me going. I still have doubts, but there is no turning back now. Once at my uncle's place, we unload the boxes and go inside. I tell them about my plan to hitchhike to Saskatoon, but Uncle interrupts me by saying that it will not happen that way. He and his wife have decided to give me $150 if I promise to take the bus and stay at the YMCA for the first 3 nights. I'm perplexed at hearing what my uncle said as I thought YMCA is a song, not a hotel. His wife explains that it stands for Young Men's Christian Association. It is a safe place, and it is true that a song was written about it. His wife makes a reservation for me at the YMCA in Saskatoon, and I go with my uncle to the bank for him to withdraw some money. After that, we go to the bus depot, and I get on the bus. Manon tells me he hopes I'm right about selling the bracelet and that he will not have any more money to give me. He explains that his finances are tight with the children and bills to pay. He points out that once the house sells, we will both be in a better financial position. He asks me to call him after I get an answer from the jewelry store. The bus leaves at 11 a.m. and I arrive in Saskatoon 7 hours later, well before nightfall. Nevertheless, it's too late to search for a jewelry store, so I walk to the YMCA. It is a nice place, and the lady at the front desk informs me about the free breakfast in the morning and shows me to my room. The place has a desk, a sink, and is nicer than my own bedroom at home. I fall asleep quickly. In the morning, I get up and go directly to the showers. Upon returning to my room, I put on my nicest clothing and make my way to the dining room for the free breakfast. I eat a big meal and even grab 2 apples and some cookies for later. Before leaving the building, I inquire about jewelry stores from the lady at the front desk. However, she gives me a strange look and does not answer, so I leave. As I walk the busy streets of downtown Saskatoon, I see signs of poverty, run-down buildings, litter on the streets, and people begging for money. I ignore them and eventually come across a jewelry store. I enter and ask the clerk about getting an estimate for a piece of jewelry I have. The clerk inquires if I want to sell it and if the jewelry is stolen. I assure her that I'm the rightful owner, having received it as a gift from my grandmother when I was 10 years old. The clerk tells me that Mr. Ma will be available at 3 p.m. the next day. I leave, wondering whether to visit another jewelry store or return to this one tomorrow. I decide to take advantage of my 2 remaining nights at the YMCA to explore the city. After walking around for a while, I stop to rest on a bench by the South Saskatchewan River. I snack on an apple and cookies and daydream about the French coureurs des bois paddling down the river like my ancestors did. As I wait for tomorrow, I reflect on the beauty of the day and what the future may hold. Eventually, I make my way back to the YMCA, noticing that my shoes are not in the best condition for more walking. As I enter the YMCA, the lady from the morning greets me with the question, "Did you find the jewelry store you were looking for?" I reply in the affirmative and point out that they expect me back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Her expression softens as she looks at me. I go to my room to rest. Later, I go to a communal hall where 4 other guys about my age are playing pool and other games. Not wanting to interrupt, I remain quiet and listen to their conversation about a university visit and their upcoming classes. Their conversation makes me reflect on my own education and my future employment possibilities. As it is getting late, I return to my room. In the morning, I wake up feeling hungry and go straight to the dining room. There are more people than the day before, but I do not pay attention to them. I quickly fix myself a breakfast of oatmeal, toast, jam, and a big glass of orange juice. At 2 p.m., I set out to visit the jewelry store again. Upon arrival, I ask to see Mr. Ma, who turns out to be a Chinese man with small green eyes, short stature, and a heavy build. I hand him my bracelet and tell him the story I know about it. He looks at it very closely, examining every angle and even using a magnifying glass. I point out to the pure silver stamp inside and express my excitement about its potential value. "Maybe it's the highest valued item in the store," I say. Mr. Ma replies, This bracelet is very interesting. My heart races upon hearing those words. There is no doubt that it is made of pure silver. However, he points out that Vikings did not speak English and asks why the stamp would be written in English. This makes me realize that the bracelet is not what I had hoped it was. He notes that the design is typical of Viking artwork and confirms that it is still valuable. When I ask how much he would give me for it, he offers only $50, being the value of the silver it contains. He then gives me the address of a shop that specializes in swords and medieval costume replicas. He is convinced that they will give me at least $200 for it. I leave the store very sad and disheartened. I walk slowly back to the YMCA thinking about Prophecy 11, an object of high value of which I'm the rightful owner. If sold to the right buyer, would solve all my financial problems. I believe the object in question must be my bracelet, as I own nothing else. I really do not know what to do or what to think anymore. This bracelet was my only chance at a stable life. Chapter 4. Getting Ready to Leave Saskatoon. I must have stayed in bed for 2 hours, but the sun is still up. I remember mon oncle had asked for me to call him after getting the value of the bracelet. I really do not feel like talking to anyone. Yet I get out of bed, leave the room to a payphone on a wall. By the entrance, I dial 0, then the 3 numbers of the area code, followed by the 7 digits of his phone number. There is an automated recording that says, "You are proceeding to make a collect call. Please indicate your name." I say, "Neige Desmarais." I can hear Uncle answering the phone and saying yes, and the communication goes through. "Bad news. $200 is all I can get." I speak. He asks, "Did they charge a fee for the appraisal?" "No, he didn't, but I'm very disappointed in my trip," was my answer. Uncle points out that there are very serious buyers for the house and our money problems will soon go away. He then tells me to withdraw money from my bank account, put the bracelet back on my wrist, and take a bus to Steinbach to find my father or any remaining relatives. I promise to do as he says. I hear a click sound and the conversation is over. Exhausted from the day's events, I return to my room and fall asleep. I had a good night's sleep and woke up bright and early. First thing to do is to take a shower. My next one might be some days away. Then I go to the dining room for breakfast. I make sure to pack extra food. I place all the extra snacks in my backpack. I filled my water bottle, look around to make sure I've not forgotten anything in the room. I stand still for 1 minute, think a bit, and put on my silver bracelet onto my left wrist. I walk to the same lady I have seen every day since I've arrived and give her the room key. "Nice bracelet. Was it the reason for your visit?" she says. "Yes, and I'm going to Steinbach now," I reply. "Is the bracelet the reason why you are going to Steinbach?" she inquires. "I do not know yet," was my answer. With the sale of my house weighing on my mind, I realized that I will not be able to return home for a while. The thought of it being sold has lifted a weight of my shoulder. My first thing to do is to visit the bus depot and check the schedule for a trip to Steinbach. I find out that the bus will take 15 hours overnight with stops along the way, and I will arrive in Steinbach in the morning. I then make my way to the bank. I did not notice it the day before, but it is right beside the jewelry store. As I get to the bank, I see it is closed and will open in 30 minutes. From the sidewalk, I can see inside the jewelry store through the shop window. There's a short Chinese man behind the counter. It is Mr. Ma. I walk into the store. Will you sell your bracelet to my friend? I called him after you left, and he's quite interested. He might offer you $300 for it, he says. I'm not selling it anymore, was my answer. Then why are you here? He points out. I am here to thank you for having done the appraisal for free, I say. I usually charge $25 for that service, but when I saw how disappointed you were, I decided not to charge you anything, he answers. I look at him with a smile. Why are you smiling? He asks. Because you have green eyes, I point out. Green eyes are not so uncommon where I'm from, he says. Where is that? I inquire. A small town in China called Lijian in Gansu province. You, on the other hand, looked like a Scandinavian, maybe even a Viking, he says. I'm a Metis from up north, is my answer. If you come across a real Viking artifact, you can come back and I will offer you its fair value, or I will find the right buyer for it, he says. I thank him and leave. Finally, the bank opens and I go in to withdraw $300 from my savings account, as instructed by my uncle. I show my interbank card and my Metis status card as identification and ask for the cash to be divided in various small denominations. With the cash in hand, I set off on my journey to find my father in Steinbach. The bus is scheduled to leave at 7 p.m., so I take the opportunity to enjoy a walk along the river. I cannot walk too far because my left big toe is sticking out of my shoe. As I sit on the bench along the path, I reflect on how different my life might have been if my parents had not divorced and if my mother had not passed away. I can only imagine what life could have been growing up in the town I'm about to discover tomorrow. It is now 6 p.m. and I'm so hungry. I know I cannot make it until tomorrow without eating, so I decide to eat a big meal. As I walk by a Chinese restaurant called Great Buffet of China, I think about Mr. Ma and decide to try Chinese food for the very first time in my life. It is a buffet-style restaurant where you pay as you get in, help yourself to various food dishes on display, eat as much as you want, and do not have to give a tip to a waiter. I think that it is the biggest meal I have ever eaten in my whole life, and it was delicious. I ask an employee if the food served is the same as what people eat in China, and I'm told that this type of food is from the southern part of China from many years ago, but the recipes have been changed a lot to adapt to the taste of Canadian clients. Chapter 5. Going to Steinbach. At 7 p.m., the bus leaves. I cannot say for certain if it was all that excellent Chinese food I ate, or the fact I ate too much of it. But as soon as the bus leaves Saskatoon, I'm sound asleep on the last bench in the back of the bus. The night passes quickly, and I wake up as we arrive in Winnipeg. I am taken aback by the city's welcome sign, which reads, Bienvenue à Winnipeg, and I'm reminded of my French heritage. I am realizing that as I'm going east, I am getting closer to the province of Quebec, where people speak French. This explains why the signs is partly written in French. As the bus rolls through the city, I take note of the license plates on the cars that reads Friendly Manitoba. I sure hope that the people of Manitoba are as friendly as the car license plates claim. A quick stop at the bus depot and a transfer later, and I'm on my way to Steinbach. The final part of my trip is short as I arrive just 60 minutes later. Upon arriving, I set out to find a phone booth, a small cubicule measuring about 1 meter square and 2 meters high. It has a door, a payphone, and a phone book. I flip through the pages in search of Lars Anderson or anyone with the same last name. But to my disappointment, I find nobody. Upon arriving at a hotel to check prices for a place to stay, I discovered that the nightly rate is too expensive for me. If I sleep here, I will run out of money in 5 days. I had thought that the YMCA in Saskatoon was expensive, but it is less than half the price of a regular hotel. I asked the lady at the front desk if she knows of a cheaper option in town. She suggests the campground that charges way less per night. Feeling disappointed, I thank her and I leave. With the new problem of where to sleep for the night, I walk by a yard sale. It is common in North America on Saturday morning in the summer for people to display items for sale in their driveway or garage next to their house. It is often a way to sell items they no longer use and obtain some money in the process. This one is organized by an old Jewish man. It is obvious that he must be a retired jeweler as per some of the things he's selling. Maybe it explains why he keeps looking at my bracelet. Somehow, this bearded man with his green eyes and big nose looks familiar to me. Even his house feels like I have been there before. Nevertheless, I check around to see if I could find anything of interest, and I'm surprised to find a complete camping set including a small tent, a camping stove, a camp mattress, a sleeping bag, a cup, a spoon, a bowl, a frying pan, and a can opener, all for a very low price. I have previously gone camping before, so I know I will be comfortable using everything. The man tells me that the equipment used to belong to his son, who tragically died 18 years ago. He looks very sad telling me that, yet it makes me feel as though it is important for him to tell me. He then informs me that the owner of the campground in town is an old friend of his, and if I say that Mr. Cohen sent me, I could stay there for free. He also suggests that after setting my tent at the campground, I should visit the main tourist attraction in town. Next thing to do is to visit the campground to see if I can stay there for free as Mr. Cohen suggested. Indeed, it worked. The woman at the campground office told me where to put my tent and said that I can stay there as long as I want. After setting my tent, I head out to the Mennonite Heritage Village. There I can learn more about my Mennonite heritage from my father's maternal side of the family. I pay for my visit and discover a part of my heritage. My first night camping in Standback is peaceful and calm. In the morning, I prepare a hot breakfast with my camping stove, consisting of instant oatmeal and a strong cup of coffee. I set out to explore the town and ask people who might have information about my biological father and my paternal grandparents. In the afternoon, I come across a group of younger guys playing soccer. I join in the game and have a great time running, laughing, and forgetting about my current situation for a while. After the game is over, we sit down on a bench and get to know each other. They ask about me, and I share my story about searching for my family. Unfortunately, no one has heard of them. The guys begin to go home for supper. On my way back to my tent, I decide to go to Garden Club Park. The gate is open, and I see people strolling along a path that surrounds a dried-up spring creek. I see a slim, elderly lady who appears to be a sweet grandmother carrying a purse in one hand and holding a tiny dog on a leash. As I pass by her, she greets me warmly, and I reciprocate. She stops and says, "You look familiar. Are you from around here?" I reply, "No, I'm just visiting." Since she appears to be about the age of what my grandmother would be, I ask if she knows a Mrs. Anderson. She looks at me intensively, studying me from head to toe, as her face grows paler with each passing second. Panic becomes evident in her eyes. She holds our little dog to her chest with one hand, and with the other she grabs her purse and presses it against her chest. Suddenly she starts shouting, "No, no, no," as her voice trembles, and she turns to run as fast as she can, yelling, "He's here! He's here! What have I done? Oh no!" The woman's behavior is truly crazy, and she frightens me a lot. I decide to quickly return to my tent. Back in my temporary home, I have enough food to last me for a few days. I reflect on my actions and words, trying to piece together what went wrong, but I still do not understand. Perhaps it is time for me to leave this place, a sign that I'm not wanted in this town. With these thoughts in mind, I close my eyes and drift off to sleep. Upon waking up, I light up the camp stove to dry the damp interior of the tent, to make myself some instant oatmeal and coffee. I spent the day regretting not having brought a book or transistor radio to pass the time. I heat up a can of soup for lunch and spend the day doing nothing, eventually falling asleep. Another rainy day goes by, and I remain in the tent, wondering what I will do next. The following day, the rain stopped. I finally get the courage to leave my tent. I am not sure if it's because I'm no longer afraid of the old lady, or because being alone all that time has been so boring. I head out to the soccer park, hoping to find people to be with. The same group of boys is playing, so I join in, but the atmosphere is different. Soon after I arrive, the boys stop playing and go to a bench, avoiding eye contact with me, as if they were afraid of me. The rejection from those boys leaves me feeling very sad. One boy calls my attention and tells me quietly, "I heard that your dad did something very bad many years ago, so bad that I'm told not to spend time with you." This revelation shocks me, and I decide to walk away from the soccer field and leave those boys behind, still wondering what my father could have done that was so bad. Chapter 6. The Original Viking Necklace. As I walk away from the soccer field, I begin to think about the social worker from my old school. Maybe the next 15 months in a group home where people are paid to take care of me might be a better deal than I first thought. Suddenly, I feel a hand on my left shoulder, causing me to freeze in fear. A voice speaks to me. "Do not be afraid, Neige. I mean you no harm." My whole body is shaking as I slowly turn to face the person who touched me. It is the same old man who sold me the camping equipment at his yard sale. He is shaking just as much as I am. He explains that the bracelet I am wearing was part of a deal between my father and his son. "I recognized your bracelet when I saw you last weekend at my yard sale, but it was not the right time. My wife was in the house, so I had to be discreet about everything." "You have already met her in the park," he says. "You mean the crazy old lady with the dog is your wife?" I exclaim. He replies with a smile. "Some people might describe her that way, I suppose." His familiar face and comforting green eyes, along with his soft voice, make me feel at ease, and I stop shaking. He says, "I've been waiting for you, but an order from a court has prevented me from reaching out to you. I am glad you came here before it's too late. I'm quite old, and I do not have many more years left. I have something to give you, but I do not have it with me now. I cannot invite you to my home, as my wife might not handle seeing you again." With a firm voice, Mr. Cohen instructs me to collect my belongings and go to the hotel where I first checked the room price upon my arrival. He claims that a room and laundry service will have been already paid for the night. A complimentary breakfast will be available starting from 7 a.m. I need to have all my things packed and ready by 9 a.m. At that time, I should meet him in the hotel lobby. During our next meeting, he will explain everything about what happened between his son and my father. I'm left confused, but I quickly gather my camping gear and make my way to the hotel as instructed. At the counter, to my surprise, the room has already been paid for. I am given key 88 and a laundry bag for my dirty clothes. Instead of trying to understand the events of the past few hours, I decide to rest and wait until the next morning. As I lay in bed, I allow myself to relax and drift off to sleep. At 8 a.m., the phone rings. I pick up the receiver to hear an automated recording saying, "This is your wake-up call. Thank you." I had fallen asleep in the bathrobe provided by the hotel, but now I realize I have no clothing in the room. I hesitantly open the door to find my laundry has been returned, clean and neatly folded. I quickly grab my nicest outfit and get dressed. I make my way to the breakfast hall where I'm greeted by a nice breakfast buffet. I enjoy a good meal. After breakfast, I return to my room to pack up my things and prepare to meet the old man. Just before 9 a.m., I go to the hotel lobby where I find Mr. Cohen already waiting for me, seated comfortably in a couch. The old man greets me with a warm smile as I approach him. "Good morning," I say. He indicates for me to come closer and hand me a small gray cloth bag. "This is yours," he says with a serious tone. "You are its rightful owner. It was never meant to be mine." I take the bag and carefully open it. To my surprise, it contains a necklace much bigger and even more intricate in detail than the bracelet I already own. I do not know where to start, I admit, examining the necklace. "Is it a real, authentic one?" The old man chuckles and tells me that he did not make this necklace. It was passed down to my father from his father, who brought it from Europe when he immigrated to Canada from Sweden before World War II. The man places a hand on my shoulder and says, "Enough questions. Just listen, and I will tell you everything." I was born in Europe and grew up in a typical neighborhood of an ordinary town. I had a job as an apprentice in a jewelry store. However, in the late 1930s, the situation for my community became increasingly dangerous. In the spring of 1939, I did not own much, yet I sold all my possessions to buy a ticket to go to Halifax on the east coast of Canada. Upon my arrival in Halifax, I heard of a community in Manitoba where the locals speak a Germanic language that closely resembles the one of my hometown. Furthermore, I learned that this Mennonite community is open to outsiders, and I believe that my knowledge of their language would help facilitate my integration into their society. With this newfound knowledge, I decided to make Steinbach, Manitoba, my destination. Once there, I established a small jewelry store with the goal of creating a business that would support me, my future family, and eventually be passed down to my children as a legacy. Through years of hard work and a reputation for honesty and fairness, I was able to grow my business and become a trusted member of the community. As my only child grew into adulthood, I handed over all financial responsibilities to him and focused on my true passion, creating and repairing jewelry. One day, my son entered into an agreement with your father regarding this necklace. Your father was looking to sell it, and in exchange, you were to receive the bracelet I had made, while the difference in value would go to your father. Unfortunately, after the agreement was concluded, your father became dissatisfied with the terms of the contract. He came back and demanded to get the necklace back, But my son refused, claiming that the contract was settled under mutual agreement and there was no going back. A big argument started, and your father pulled a gun and fired at my son. The result was the tragic loss of my only child, who was killed by your father. The police came shortly after. Your father was found at his home and taken away. He was later sentenced to serve 25 years in jail. My son was buried 18 years ago. He was not always perfect, but his death was not justified. I recognize that the agreement he had made with your father was not honest, and I understand that giving you this necklace cannot bring my son back nor give you a father, but it will serve as a form of justice for you. This necklace has been passed down through your family for over 40 generations, for the last 1,000 years. Your father broke with traditions. This was his mistake, not yours. After the death of my son, I made the difficult decision to close the jewelry store and sell all its assets. The loss of my son was too much to bear, and I no longer had the desire to continue with the business. I chose to live a more simple and modest life in retirement. I understand that the bracelet I made was created with the intention of cheating you out of your rightful inheritance, and I respectfully ask that you return it to me. I will keep it as a memento to remember you by, and in exchange, you will get to keep the original necklace. During your mother's short time living in Steinbach, she formed a friendship with my wife. When your mother passed away, my wife and I attended the funeral in Ile-à-la-Crosse. This is when I first met your grandmother. She mentioned the idea of you being put up for adoption. When I saw you, I was struck by how much you reminded me of my own son as a baby, and I felt a strong desire to adopt you. My wife, however, believed it would be better for you to remain within your own family. When you were 10 years old, your grandmother was hospitalized, and it seemed like she would not make it. With no one in your family to take care of you, my wife and I stepped up and took you in as a foster child. We raised you as our own for 3 months, providing a stable, loving home for you. We put forward a proposal to legally adopt you, but your father declined our offer. As a result, we had to return you to your grandmother once she had recovered. Before you left, I asked her to give you the bracelet I had made, which your mother had kept. Later, your father obtained a restraining order which prevented us from ever reaching out to you or attend your grandmother's funeral back in January. We are good people and have always respected the law. The restraining order remains in effect for the next 15 months. I am following the law. I did not reach out to you. You reach out to me, or at least this is what I'm convincing myself. As soon as the old man finished speaking, I take the bracelet off my wrist and hand it to him. He holds my hand for a long time, his green eyes shining with tears, and then he says goodbye and leaves. I'm left alone on the sofa in the hotel lobby, still shocked by everything that was shared with me. Chapter 7. Going to Stony Mountain Penitentiary. After Mr. Cohen left, I kept thinking about the fact that the necklace has been passed down for over 40 generations without being sold. What gives me the right to sell it now? I did not feel comfortable asking him for its current value, as I know he doesn't want me to sell it. Instead, he wants me to keep the tradition alive and pass it on to my future child. I can understand his viewpoint. He feels that my father made a serious mistake in selling the necklace, and he doesn't not want me to repeat that same mistake. I get off from the couch and decide to call mon oncle. His wife answers the phone, informing me that the house has been sold and that I should expect to receive my share of the inheritance, which is about $10,000. It will be deposited into my bank account within the next few weeks. Now that Grandma's house is settled, I have to focus on locating my father and question him about the reason behind his actions. Why did he sell the necklace and later breach the agreement? What led to his decision to divorce my mother? And why did he prevent me from having a loving, adoptive family? I go to the reception desk of the hotel to return the room key and inform the staff at the counter that I'm checking out. Before I leave, the attendant hands me an envelope and informs me that there's a message for me. The note reads, "At noon, Mr. Jordan Hope, a psychologist from the hospital, will be ready to visit his son who is incarcerated at Stony Mountain Penitentiary. He and his wife are waiting for you in the hotel restaurant. If you wish to visit your father, you may accompany them. In the envelope, you will find $200, which should be sufficient for your bus trip back home to Île-à-la-Crosse. In the end, everything will be okay. Signed, Mr. Cohen." I glance toward the restaurant and see a middle-aged couple waving at me. They promptly invite me to join them for lunch and generously pay for my meal. During the car ride, I am struck by their kindness and warmth. I cannot help but wonder how such wonderful people could have a child serving time in prison. It then dawns on me that I'm the son of a murderer. Life has a way of humbling us at times. To start a conversation, I ask if they had ever noticed anything strange about Miss Cohen. The woman responds, "Marge, she is my best friend. Why would you ask that?" "She acted very strangely when I met her in the park," I tell them. "I have no idea why she was so scared of me." Mr. Hope points out that he knows Miss Cohen quite well and that her behavior aligns with her values, and there is nothing strange about her. He clarifies that after she spoke with me in the park, I had revealed my identity. At that moment, she realized she was in violation of a restraining order signed by a judge, therefore breaking the law. According to her values, she had committed a grave offense. To her, there is no justification for breaking the law. That explains her reaction. I bring something to the attention of Mr. Hope by saying that Mr. Cohen should uphold the same ethical standards as his wife. However, despite being aware of my identity, he chose to engage with me. Because of the restraining order, his behavior constitutes a violation of the law, making his actions even more unacceptable than those of his wife. Why did he knowingly break the law? In response, I'm told that Mr. Cohen takes a different approach to adhering to rules. He spent considerable amount of time thinking how he could rationalize breaking the law. After he saw me at his yard sale, he pondered on how he could limit his interactions with me to a minimum. This is what can be referred to as justifying one's own behavior. He decided to break the rule because he believed it to be unfair. I spent some time to understand that reasoning, and then it became clear to me. The school's social worker chose to inform me about my father's rejection of the adoption, even though doing so made her break the law. She believed that the rule was unjust, which made her feel justified in breaking it. However, she kept the information about my father being in jail from me because she felt that the rule forbidding me from knowing about his criminal past was fine. After engaging in a thought-provoking conversation with the psychologist, we finally arrive at Stony Mountain Penitentiary. I express my gratitude for the ride, the conversation, and the meal. As we step out of the car, Mr. Hope reminds me of his important commitment in Winnipeg at 3 p.m. It is now 1 p.m., leaving me with just 90 minutes to visit my father before their departure. To be on the safe side, I decide to bring my luggage into the institution lobby in case my visit takes longer than expected. If that was to happen, the Hopes would leave and I would have to find another way to get to Winnipeg in order to catch a bus back home. I am waiting for the security screening at the facility's reception area. It is finally my turn. The security officer is a tall, serious-looking black man with an imposing presence and large, dark eyes. His display of authority is unlike anything I have ever encountered before. He fixes me with his gaze and says, "Bonjour, welcome," in a commanding voice. I ask why he is greeting me in French. He replies, "This is a federal institution. We are required to provide services in both French and English. It is the rule." I tell him that I have been to federal buildings before and have never been addressed in French. He replies, "You must not be from around here. In Manitoba, we do things that way." He then asks why I'm carrying a backpack and a large bag, suggesting that I might be planning to move into the jail. I explain that they are just my personal things and ask if I could store them safely during my visit. The officer assures me that my belongings would be safe, stating that they are very good with security and safety in the facility. "You need to show me some ID now," he asks. I take out my Metis status card and hand it over. Once he sees my name, he says, "Neige Desmarais. That is a very strange name. We do not hear that every day." I answer, "It is my name, and I hear it almost every day." He looks at me with the biggest smile, saying, "This is the best response I've heard in years." I'm quick to respond that I can see from his name badge that his name is Amadou. Ama sounds like amour, which is love in French, and dou means soft. I point out that he does not exactly look like soft love to me. Now he cannot hold himself from laughing out loud, saying that in Senegal his name is very popular. I answer, "We're not in Senegal, we're in Manitoba, aren't we?" He gets back into laughing again. "You are so funny, you are killing me," he yells out. "I'm already in a jail, am I not?" is my answer. Then he's back laughing even louder than before. He orders me to move through the metal detector. As I walk through lights and an alarm gets triggered and I'm frozen by fear. "Move along. It must be your belt or some coins in your pocket. This machine is just too sensitive. Go sit over there in the waiting room while I call the service, because your name does not come up on the authorized visitors list," he says. As I sit in the waiting room, I realize that the heavy necklace in my left pocket must have triggered the metal detector. After a while, a young native woman takes me to her office. "Unfortunately, since you are neither on our visitors list nor the list of inmates' relatives, I'm afraid you will need to leave, as you do not have the right to be here," she says. My disappointment shows clearly on my face and must have softened her opinion. "You claim to be the son of Lars Anderson, and there is an inmate with that name here. I will speak to inmate Anderson directly to verify your claim, and if he agrees, I will escort you to him," she says. Chapter 8. Meeting my father for the very first time. The level of security at this jail is truly remarkable. To reach the inner perimeter of the complex, I counted 6 security doors. The inmate we pass by are all dressed in the same way, with white tops and dark blue pants, with some wearing light blue jackets. None of them are wearing regular clothing. Their expressions are like the beggars I saw in Saskatoon. They seem lonely and desperate for any form of human interactions, even if it's just small talk to break the monotony of their daily lives. It is difficult to watch the elderly inmates in wheelchairs, some whom appear to be so old and senile that they may have forgotten why they are in jail. Finally, I'm sitting face to face with my biological father for the very first time, and the experience is both surreal and intense. As we exchange glances, a profound silence falls over us. Despite the age difference, I can see a striking resemblance between us. However, I cannot help but notice how much older he appears than his actual age. The questions that have been burning inside me for a while now finally spill out one by one like an avalanche of emotion. Why did you choose to sell the necklace that had been in our family for generations? After agreeing to sell it, why did you break the deal you had agreed upon? Can you explain why you divorced my mother? Why did you prevent me from having a loving adoptive family? And why did you go as far as to get a restraining order against those who were only trying to offer me love and support? As I anxiously await his response, he speaks slowly, drawing out the tension between us. He begins to talk, and his words come out. My heart sinks with them. Those people who wanted to adopt you are horrible, he says. They are thieves and liars, buying things at low prices and tricking unsuspecting victims into thinking they are worth much more. If they had adopted you, they would have turned you into the evil twin brother of their dead son, who was one of the worst type of human being you could ever meet. The weight of his words hang heavy in the air, and an uneasy silence stretches between us. Finally, I find the courage to ask the question that has been burning inside me. Did your action contribute to Mom's death? Why did you divorce her? He shakes his head seriously. I have never divorced your mother, he says. I really loved her. My voice trembles as I speak. I tell him that it is his only chance to tell me his side of the story, because I will never come back to this jail, and I do not want to see him ever again. I wait anxiously for his response. For a long time, there is only silence, and my heart feels heavy with what I might never know. He begins to tell his story. My father, your grandfather, felt compelled to leave Sweden in the early 1940s as the war was ramping up in Europe. He had been working in a chemical factory whose biggest client was the German government. He became increasingly uneasy about the use of the chemicals he was helping to produce, and which he knew were shipped to the German military. He decided not to be part of it any longer. Before leaving, my grandfather gave him the necklace, wanting him to keep it safe. He hoped that one day my father could pass it down to his own son at the right time. During his journey across the Atlantic, my father thought of selling the necklace once in Canada, if it was worth enough to provide him with a stepping stone to a better life in the New World. When he arrived in Quebec City, he struggled to find a buyer due to the language barrier. Despite his efforts, he was unable to find a buyer and ended up doing odd jobs to survive. Later that summer, some of his friends were going to Winnipeg to work on the wheat harvest. Although the pay was not great, there was plenty of work available. So my father joined them, traveling from Quebec City to Winnipeg for free by jumping on steam trains. Unfortunately, at that time, there were no jewelers in Winnipeg with extensive knowledge of medieval Viking art. So my father was still unable to find a buyer willing to pay a fair price for the necklace. My father's background in chemistry led him to start a company specializing in strike anywhere matches in Winnipeg. He used cheap and readily available chemical ingredients and scrap wood for the stems to create a good quality product with a high profit margin. The matches were in high demand, and our family enjoyed an upper middle class life in the 1960s. However, as I became an adult, my father's company faced significant problems. There were rumors that our matches would attract mice due to the taste of phosphorus. The mice would nibble the tip, causing them to ignite and start fires in people's homes. This undermined the safety of our product and led to a loss of trust from our customers. As a result, new, safer types of matches and lighters entered the market, leading to the downfall of our company. In my early 20s, I met your mother in Winnipeg. We fell in love quickly. She was raised in poverty and dreamt of a life of luxury. I wanted to make her happy, so I talked about all the things we would buy together with the money I was to get from the company. I knew the business was struggling, but there was all the buildings and equipment. That alone would give us the financial security we needed to fulfill our dreams. We got married and were overjoyed with your upcoming arrival. However, our happiness was short-lived when a devastating fire destroyed not only our homes but the factory and adjacent buildings. Tragically, my father lost his life in the fire. We had no insurance to cover the damages because it was claimed to be due to negligence. It left us with shattered dreams. Your mother was under a lot of stress, and it was taking a toll on her physical, emotional, and mental health, and that led her taking out her frustration onto me. I was telling her that we would figure out a way to make it work through hard work and sacrifices. She was pregnant with you and extremely worried about her future. Her insults towards me were getting worse. I didn't know at that time those behaviors are typical of expecting mothers. Her case was gravely worsened by the fire and our financial circumstances. We eventually moved into my mother's summer residence in Steinbach. I visited the local jeweler with the necklace in hand, hoping to sell it for a good price. After some negotiations, we agreed on a deal. The jeweler's father would create a replica of the necklace in the shape of a bracelet, which I would give you as your inheritance. In exchange, I would receive $10,500 in cash minus the cost for the bracelet at $444, which left me with $10,056. I had planned to use the money to provide a better life for you and your mother. When I shared the news with your mother, she was quick to point out that the necklace was worth way more than the amount I accepted. Her instinct proved to be right, as rumors began to circulate in town that the jeweler had taken advantage of me and paid a small sum for a piece of jewelry worth 10 times the price. The events that follow were devastating. When your mother found out about the rumors, she expressed her disappointment and anger towards me in the harshest way possible. Her words were hurtful, and I could not bear the weight of her accusations any longer. I reached a breaking point and went to confront the jeweler with a weapon, with the goal of getting the necklace back. When he refused to cancel the deal and give me back the necklace, I killed him. This led to my arrest. Soon after, my bank account was frozen and the money I had received from the necklace was gone. Your mother moved back to Île-à-la-Crosse and I was left alone in prison. I believe the stress and regrets that your mother experienced led to her death. She likely could not bear the realization that her treatment towards me had resulted in the loss of a life and my imprisonment. My mother also left Steinbach, unable to bear the shame and gossip surrounding our family. I believe she moved to St. Boniface, close to Winnipeg, but I have not heard from her since. My voice trembles with emotions as tears fill my eyes. I'm really sorry to hear all of this, Father. Suddenly, a loud announcement interrupts our conversation, signaling the end of visiting hours. I'm unable to embrace him or even say a proper goodbye. As I leave the room, I could not help but think about prophecy number 9 and how it had come true that a big fire from 18 years ago had far-reaching consequences that are still being felt today. The young native lady was standing right behind me, and asks me to follow her to the main entrance. As I arrive, I see Amadou still smiling at me. He informs me that Mr. Hope and his wife have left a while ago and offers to drive me to a campground if I'm willing to wait for another 15 minutes. While waiting, he strikes up a conversation and begins to share his personal story. Amadou tells me that he immigrated to Canada alone from Senegal 15 years ago and initially enjoyed dating a lot, particularly Native women, whom he found to be very attractive. However, he soon realized that cross-cultural, long-term relationships are not for everyone. The skin color, he says, is not the main problem, because every darker person seems to aspire to a lighter skin tone, and lighter skin folks want theirs to be darker. People are just never satisfied with their appearance. At the end, he had a good job and his life was in order. He traveled to Senegal, where elders had arranged a marriage according to local traditions. He brought his new wife to Canada, and now they have 2 beautiful daughters, and he feels grateful for the good life they have in Manitoba. Amadou concludes, "The people of Manitoba are really friendly indeed, and we like it here." Amadou kindly pays for 2 nights at the campground and offers to bring traditional African food for breakfast before heading to work the next day. "What will you bring?" "From what I see on TV, traditional foods in Africa is nothing. People are starving over there," I say. Upon hearing that, he begins to laugh as loud as earlier. "You are the funniest boy I have ever met," he exclaims. "I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm simply responding to your remarks," I say. "That is what makes you so hilarious," he concludes. "You are the best and nicest black person I have ever met," I point out to him. "Have you met many black folks in your life before?" "No, you're the only one," I answer, and here he goes laughing again. Soon after he leaves, I put up my tent, cook a meal, and go to bed. Chapter 9. Going to Winnipeg. I wake up to Amadou's arrival with a large bag of food. "I brought you mafé with rice, couscous with grilled fish, some 5 centime cookies, coconut rice, pudding, and some mint tea," he says. I'm intrigued by the exotic dishes he has brought. He wishes me well and explains that he will not be returning as he has other commitments to attend to. I enjoy the food he has brought, and I'm amazed by the rich flavors. I had never imagined that there could be such good food in Africa. It makes me wonder how people over there can suffer from malnutrition when their cuisine is so delicious. After spending the day asking around and trying to figure out a way to get to Winnipeg, I realize that it is not going to be easy. Despite having about $300 in cash, including the $200 from Mr. Cohen, a necklace worth over $100,000, and the expectation of receiving $10,000 from the sale of Grandma's house, there seems to be no bus service or anyone going to Winnipeg from all the people I've asked. So I go to bed wondering how I will make it to the bus depot in Winnipeg. After a restful sleep, I prepare breakfast and get ready to leave. Unfortunately, I have no other option but to hitchhike my way to the bus depot in Winnipeg to catch a bus back home. I get my things together, look around, make sure I'm not missing anything, and I begin to walk towards the highway, going south. I stand on the side of the road with my thumb up, expecting someone to give me a ride for free. As time passes by, without any luck in getting a ride, I begin to question the effectiveness of hitchhiking as a means of transportation. Disappointed, I make the decision to start walking along the side of the road. However, as I walk, I come across a sign that warns driver against picking up hitchhikers due to the proximity of a jail. Despite the setback, I remain determined to reach my destination, which is only 36 kilometers away. The only issue is that my shoes are in poor condition, causing my feet to hurt at every step. 7 hours have passed since I left the campground, and I still have not had any luck in getting a ride. Suddenly, a farm truck pulls up, and I quickly make my way towards it. "I'm heading to Winnipeg," I informed the driver. "Get in," he replies. The inside of the truck is cluttered and totally disorganized. The driver appears to be distracted, paying attention to everything else but the road. Nevertheless, I begin to feel a sense of relief as I draw closer to my destination. As the truck continues down the road, I notice music playing that has a familiar rhythm, like that what I've heard during native powwows. Intrigued, I focus my attention to the song and point out to the driver that it is in French. "It's my favorite song," the driver responds. "It's called Dégénération, from a group called Mes Aïeux. It refers to the grave mistake of people cashing in the generational wealth from their ancestors for their own benefit, breaking the legacy and depriving the following generations of that wealth." Curious about the driver's background, I ask, "Are you French? Because I'm part French myself." "No, I'm Métis, but I speak French," he replies. Surprised and shocked, I look at him and speak. "How can you be Métis? You're black." He interrupts me, pointing out that it is the same reaction he gets whenever he tells new people about being a Métis. He clarifies by stating that while his father is of direct Métis ancestry from the Red River settlement, his mother is from the Ivory Coast in Africa. He was raised in St. Boniface by his father and his stepmother while keeping good connection with his birth mother after the divorce of his parents 20 years ago. He always spoke French with her, and he went to a French-Canadian school growing up. I look at him and point out that I'm also Métis from Île-à-la-Crosse in Saskatchewan. The driver then asks for my name. "Neige Desmarais," I say. Upon hearing it, a big smile spreads across his face. At this point, I tell him, "Do you find my name to be funny? Because I know already it means swamp snow in French." He shakes his head no. "Let me introduce myself," he says. "My name is David Desmarais." That is a very strange coincidence. We might be related. The driver asks me where I want to be dropped off in Winnipeg, and I replied the bus depot. However, he expresses doubts about catching a bus this late going west. He then offers me an invitation to join him on his visit to his father in St. Boniface. He's retired and extremely involved in genealogy and everything Métis related, the driver explains. "I'm sure he'd love to meet with you," he concludes. As he notices my camping equipment, David suggests that I could simply set up my tent in his father's backyard for the night, and his father could take me to the bus depot the following day. The invitation sounds appealing, and I accept with gratitude, excited at the prospect of meeting someone who shares my cultural heritage. As we arrive in St. Boniface, I'm struck by the French influence of the area. David tells me that it was once the largest French settlement west of Ottawa for many years. He points out that it is not French much anymore, yet people like to think that it still is. As we reach our destination, I'm introduced to David's father and stepmother. The old men's bright green eyes catch my attention immediately. Both he and his wife are kind and welcoming, especially the stepmother. I notice her once blonde hair is now white and gray, but her bright blue eyes still shine with warmth. Despite the visible sign of aging, her gentle and kindness still remains. As we sit in the living room, I'm asked all sorts of questions about dead relatives on my mother's side. I'm asked about people whose name I've never heard before. The old man then retrieves a photograph from a book and confidently points out two brothers standing next to each other in the picture. The one on the left is my grandfather, and the one on the right is your maternal grandfather's father, he says. I cannot help but smile and feel overjoyed at the discovery. We're related, I exclaim. Finding family in Winnipeg brings me happiness. At a certain point, the old lady, who had been silently listening, decides to speak up. This is all well and good, she says, but what about your father? I know very little about my father, I reply. As a matter of fact, the first and last time I met him was 2 days ago. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, she responds. All I know is his name, Lars Anderson, and I visited him at Rocky Mountain Penitentiary, I point out. At that exact moment, the old lady cannot hold her tears and begins to cry uncontrollably. Worried that I had said something wrong, I ask, what did I say? The old man turns to his wife and asks, what's wrong with you, sweetheart? Lars Anderson is my son, she sobs. That makes Neige my grandson. Overcome with emotion, tears begin to stream down my face, and soon everyone in the room is crying. Finally, I have found my paternal grandmother. Chapter 10. My New Family. After the emotions settle down, my new grandma apologizes for not offering any refreshments. I sense that she needs some time to herself to process everything. So David and I begin to organize my stay in the backyard camping. She stops us and declares, my grandson will not be sleeping outside. You go to David's old bedroom. He will show you where it is and get yourself comfortable. I will be going to bed, but we have so much to talk about tomorrow. I heard you had died at birth. You are like an angel coming back to life, she says. Her warm words fill me with joy and gratitude, and I follow David, who shows me to the bedroom. As I prepare to sleep, I cannot believe what has just happened. I came to Manitoba in search of family, and I found so much more. The thought of having found my grandmother against all odds overwhelms me, and I drift off to sleep with a smile on my face. In the morning, when I wake up, I find Grandma already in the kitchen, having prepared a nice breakfast and waiting for everyone to come. It is the most elaborate breakfast I had seen in a home before. I could not help but ask if it was because of my presence. To my surprise, the old man says that it's always like this every morning. I could not believe it. This man is treated like a king. Over breakfast, we all agree that I will be staying in their home for a while. My step-grandfather invites me to join him for his daily walk, and as we stroll, he starts opening to me. I divorced from David's mother 20 years ago, he confides. She had an affair, and it hit me very hard. David stayed with me, and I'm grateful for that. Then I met your grandmother. We fell in love. She is very traditional and shares many of the same values of the woman of my childhood. She had her own struggles with the fire and the death of her first husband. You might find her a bit old-fashioned, but I can assure you that she has the best intentions. Her house is her castle, and she's the ruling queen. She is the opposite of my ex-wife. As we return from our long walk, I notice Grandma busy sewing in the living room. Upon reaching my bedroom, I am surprised to see that all my clothing has been taken out of my luggage. Walking back to the living room, I see that she is mending my underwear, carefully fixing the holes and rips. Curious, I ask her what she is doing and where is my clothing. You cannot go out with underwear like this, Neige. What will the neighbors say? She says. Nothing, because I always wear my undergarments under my pants, so nobody sees them, I replied. In my home, my grandson will not have holes in his clothing, and the rest of your clothing is washed, dried, and folded in the drawers of your dresser. Later today, we will get you some new shoes and new clothing. No grandchild of mine should be going around with such bad shoes and so little variety of clothing. Lunch is almost ready. "Go wash your hands," she declares. I received a new pair of shoes and some clothing from my loving grandparents, and I could not be happier. They are truly the best thing that has ever happened to me. Grandma decides to teach me how to use the internet on her computer, as I have never done that before. She even sets up an email address for me so we can stay in touch whenever we're apart. As someone who has never used the internet before, I find it extremely fascinating. It is amazing how much information is available with just a few clicks, and I could spend hours exploring different websites. Some days later, I'm asked to volunteer on David's farm to help with the harvest. As I climb into the truck with David, he mentions that I will get to drive the combine today. I have no idea what a combine is, but I hope it's a small piece of farming equipment. David chuckles and says, "You'll learn." We drive to a vast wheat field, and in a distance, I can see a massive harvesting machine. As we get closer, I realize the sheer size of the farm equipment. "Is that the combine you were talking about?" I ask. "Yes, and my son is driving it right now. We will wait for him to stop and come out, and he will show you how to operate it," David replies. David urges me to climb up and meet my driving instructor, who is eagerly waiting for me. As I operate the combine, I find the job quite easy, since the fields are flat and there are no obstacles that could cause an accident. The machine itself is quite slow, and the only two operations are to turn at the end of the field and to switch some levers to dump the grain into a truck driven by David. Saturday night, David drives me back home, and I ask for permission to make a phone call. I reach mon oncle and inform him that I have found my other grandmother and everything is going fine. He then asks if I have checked my bank account balance and tells me that my share of inheritance has been deposited last week. I assure him that I will investigate it, and I tell him that I have decided to spend the winter in Winnipeg. Mon oncle tells me about the new owners of Grandma's house who have found a letter hidden under a plank of the wooden floor in one of the bedrooms. Uncle does not want to disclose more about it over the phone, but offers to send it to me at my new grandma's address. One evening, as we finish the harvest, it dawns on me that I had been working without pay. However, I also have no expenses. Being in the company of those who have welcomed me so generously into their lives is a reward, and it fills me with a sense of satisfaction and of belonging to a family. After picking up the mail, Grandma tells me that a letter came in for me from my other relatives. I open it, and here is what it says. Friday, October 11th, 1982. Dear unborn child, things have not been going well at all. There was a big fire. Someone was murdered. Your father is now in jail, and I'm back in the house where I grew up, living in poverty. 1 year ago, my life was a dream. I had found my rich Prince Charming. We were planning a future of luxury. I had met the most handsome blue-eyed man I had ever seen, and he was totally crazy about me. I felt so loved and desired. When he proposed, it was like a dream come true. I can assure you that you were conceived in love and mutual respect. Then there was the fire. My hopes and dreams burned to ashes that day. I also lost my father-in-law, who had become a father figure to me, since I lost my own father as a little girl. I was so worried about the future, disappointed on how life had taken a turn for the worse. This changed me, and I became a horrible wife, and I regret it so much now. I never realized how much power and influence I had over your father. I would have never imagined in a million years that by calling him a stupid idiot and a bad father, he would turn around and kill another human in cold blood. My health has been deteriorating, and the doctors prescribed a very potent medication. When I asked if that medication could negatively affect my beloved baby, all I was told was, "You have an extremely serious condition. If we do not take care of you, you will die. At this point, we do not consider the life of the baby as being relevant as we prioritize the life of the mother." I'm over 8 months pregnant. I can feel you inside me. What am I expected to do? Kill a human in cold blood, just like my husband did? Will I be as guilty as he is? I do not know what to do. It is a matter of life or death. Love, your mother. This letter serves to confirm the cause of my mother's tragic passing. It is a devastating and heartbreaking realization. Although I played no direct role, nor was my father responsible, I have come to understand that my mother was a compassionate person who faced her own struggles. This newfound knowledge inspires me to honor her memory by living fully and moving forward, recognizing that she had faith in me even when she lacked it in herself. The first part of prediction 6 has come true. My birth was a life-threatening event that required my mother to make an incredible sacrifice. I come to realize that Mr. and Mr. Cohen, as well as my father, are good people too. While we cannot change the past, we can choose to forgive and move forward. As I reflect on everything, I realize that I have grown a lot recently. Grandpa and I sit down for a talk in the living room, and he brings up the importance of education. And I ask him what he thinks I should do. He suggests that I become a teacher specialist for Michif, my native language, since I speak it fluently and present myself well. He tells me that the Metis Federation and the Manitoba Ministry of Education have money available to pay for a 9-month course, which includes a small salary and extra money for living expenses. I can stay with my grandparents for free and pocket the extra cash. By the end of the course, I will have a certificate which will open job opportunities for teaching Michif to school students. I never thought I could become a teacher, I respond, surprised at the possibility. Everything is in order, and I'm currently enrolled in university. As time goes by, I start to realize the value of having limited expenses, including free rent, free food, free laundry service, and a free education. In addition, I receive scholarships and bursaries, which has allowed my bank account to double since getting my share of the inheritance from my maternal grandmother. During the winter, I obtained my driver's license, and my grandpa surprised me by gifting me his old car when he bought a new one. Chapter 11, My Journey Back Home. As summer draws near, I'm about to complete my Native Education Certificate. This program will enable me to teach First Nations or Métis language and culture classes in Canadian schools. One option is to remain in Winnipeg with my grandparents. I could seek employment anywhere in Canada, opening many exciting opportunities. Lastly, I'm also considering returning to my hometown of Île-à-la-Crosse, where I have roots and connections. As I sit in the living room with Grandpa, I bring the subject of my future plans. Grandpa responds by expressing his concerns over the Michif language, which is not standardized and can vary from one community to another. He explains that this could make it difficult for me to be appreciated as a teacher, as the locals may not approve of my work if I do not speak their exact sub-dialect. Grandpa suggests that my best option would be to return to my hometown and find a teaching position there, where the language is the same. He also reassures me that if I want to further my education, I would always be welcome back with the same deal as the previous year. After much consideration, I decide to go back to my hometown. It is time to inform my grandmother about my decision to leave her home in the coming weeks. I'm anxious about how she will react, but I get the courage to sit down and talk to her. As I share my plans, I'm surprised to see her smiling and looking happy. I ask her why she is not upset, and she replies that she is the happiest grandmother in the whole province. She goes on to explain that she had always hoped to be an involved grandmother, but had been unable to. She lost her first husband in the fire and became a failure as a mother when her only son turned out to be a murderer, and her pregnant daughter-in-law left never to be seen again. The town's gossip had become unbearable, and she was forced to sell her beloved summer house and move to Winnipeg with her entire possessions. It took her years to regain a sense of self-dignity, and she convinced herself that I had died at birth. When I showed up at her house, she had only expected me to stay for 3 months before becoming a legal adult in Manitoba. But I stayed much longer, and now she is so proud to see how successful I have become, with a professional degree, a car, a lot of money in my bank account, and plans. She thanks me for being such a good grandson and giving her the opportunity to be an involved grandmother. She asks me to promise her one thing, to use the email address to send her pictures of my accomplishments so that she can brag to her friends and show them how fortunate she is to have contributed to my success. I feel a sense of relief and gratitude. I promise her that I will stay in touch via email and make her proud. As I prepare for my departure, I realize I want to bring a gift for someone special. I turn to my grandfather and ask him where I could find the best maple syrup. He replies that he always gets the darkest syrup directly from a small producer in eastern part of the country to savor the real thing. He promises to give me some for my friend. As the dreaded Monday arrives, I look at my car, which is packed with all my belongings, including the necklace, my camping equipment, and a big jug of maple syrup. It is time to leave, and my heart is heavy with emotion. Grandma is already crying, as is Grandpa, and I cannot help but cry too. I know that I will miss them dearly. Before leaving, I hug my grandparents tightly and thank them for being wonderful. I promise to keep in touch via email. As I drive back towards Rocky Mountain Penitentiary, I notice that the journey is much quicker this time, as I arrive in less than an hour. When I reach the entrance of the facility, I see Amadou looking at me with the biggest smile. "Are you here to visit your father again?" he asks. "Yes, and to bring you a gift of traditional maple syrup," I answer. "Let me buzz you in. You have security clearance now. Just step through the metal detector," he orders. I know that it will not trigger this time because I had left the necklace locked inside the car. As I lay eyes on my father, we look at each other. "I thought you would not come back," he says with a hint of surprise in his voice. "I'm here. I want to tell you that I now believe that if you had been given the chance, you would have been a wonderful father." I go on to share my experience of spending the last year with his mother and her new husband. "Your mother and stepfather are great people. Mr. and Mrs. Cohen are nice people too, and they recognize their son was not honest with you. For having prevented me from being adopted by them, you allowed me to spend the last year with your mother, and I thank you for that." I say, we hug, and I leave. As I reach the exit, Amadou catches my attention again. I ask if it's possible to add my email address to my father's file as a family contact. He assures me that it will be done and that I can expect to hear from them when the need comes up. Before leaving, he asks where I will be staying for the night. I inform him that I will be staying at the same campground as last year. With a smile, he offers to bring me some African food in the morning, and I gladly accept his offer. As I leave the facility, and head out to my car, I cannot help but feel a sense of closure and peace. At the campground, I get a feeling of independence and empowerment as I realize I'm here by choice and that I'm fully responsible for my own expenses. It is a liberating feeling that I savor. The next morning, Amadou shows up with his delicious African food, and as he steps out of his car, he remarks, "You look different, more mature and self-assured." His words make me feel proud and empowered. Then I hand him back the $30 he had paid for me last year for the campground fees, and we shake hands, sealing our bond of friendship. As I hit the road towards Steinbach, Amadou's word about my newfound maturity echoes in my mind. Upon arriving, I check into the same hotel and request the same room as last year, but this time I decline the laundry service. Despite enjoying my stay, I cannot help but feel that it does not quite measure up to the previous year's adventure. The next morning, I partake in the complimentary breakfast, but find that it does not quite compare to the delicious meals my own grandmother had been cooking for me over the past year. On my way to the lobby, I scan the room, hoping to see Mr. Cohen and Mr. Hope, but they are nowhere to be found. I head to the counter to return the key and inquire about the cost of one night's stay, including laundry service. I place the equivalent amount of money in an envelope and add a heartful message expressing my gratitude to Mr. and Mrs. Cohen for their kindness and generosity towards me. I also include the $200 from last year for the bus fare I never took. In another envelope, I write a message of appreciation to Mr. Hope. I thank him for the car ride and our insightful conversation. I provide my email address and request that he forwards it to Mr. Cohen on October 31st. I hand the envelopes to the hotel attendant along with a $10 bill for the forwarding services, and I leave. I get into the car and start heading west. As I catch sight of the sign that reads "Welcome to Saskatchewan," a strange sensation invades me. For the past 8 months, I've been considered an adult in Manitoba, but now that I'm in Saskatchewan, I'm suddenly a child again. Despite the difference in legal age of adulthood between these two provinces, I do not feel any less mature than before. Saskatoon is a 10-hour drive, which is the longest I've ever driven in a single day. The road runs straight through the Canadian prairies. I arrive at the YMCA quite late, and the same lady from last year recognizes me. "You're back," she says. "Only staying for 2 nights this time," I reply. "I see you're no longer wearing your bracelet," she observes. "It was returned to its original owner," I explain. "Are you visiting a jewelry store again?" she asks. "Yes, but for a different reason this time," I reply. "What are your plans after your visit?" she inquires. "I'll be heading back home up north," I say. The night at the YMCA is much quieter than last year, and I fall asleep easily in the same bed. In the morning, I take a quick shower, enjoy a light breakfast, and head out to the jewelry store. As I approach, I can see Mr. Ma from the sidewalk through the shop window. I walk in and he immediately recognizes me. "You know I will not give you a good price for your bracelet," he says. "I no longer have the bracelet. I'm here because you told me if I had a real artifact, you would consider it. I'm prepaying for the value assessment. Here is $25, I say. "Show me what you have," he exclaims. I retrieve the necklace from the gray cloth bag in my pocket and present it to him. As he looks at it, I notice his face becoming paler and he starts shaking like a leaf in the wind. Despite this, I feel no stress whatsoever. He examines the necklace closely from all sides before finally speaking. "You were right," he says. "About what?" I ask. "When you visited me last year, you thought that your bracelet might be the most valuable item in my store. It was not the case, but this necklace is the most valuable piece of jewelry in this store," he confirms. "How much is it worth?" I ask eagerly. "That depends on finding the right buyer," he points out. I can offer you 100,000 for it. Alternatively, if it goes to the Heffel Fine Art Auction House in Vancouver, the starting price will be $200,000. And if it goes to the Apollo Art Auction in London, UK, the starting price will be $300,000. It is even possible that it could sell for way more than that, he says. Mr. Ma explains that to proceed with any agreement, lawyers will need to be involved, and an escrow account will be open with a bond of $100,000 to initiate the contract. I will need to provide a guardian's permission or a lawyer to sign for me, as I'm not yet an adult in this province and cannot legally sign a contract. If I decide to send the necklace to auction, his fees are 10% of the final auction price plus expenses and cost. Once the contract is signed, it is legally binding and there is no way out. I will receive my money and he will get either the necklace or the auction commission. As I begin to feel intimidated with the process, I ask if I can leave the store right now with my necklace. If you decide to leave the store right now, you are free to go, as we have not yet entered into an agreement. But before you leave, I would appreciate if you would allow me to take pictures of the necklace to send to the Munch Museum in Oslo, Sweden. They would never believe that such artifact still exists without photographic evidence, he says. Mr. Ma, if you were to become the owner of this necklace, would you sell it? I ask. I would never sell it, and I believe that you should not sell it either, he responds. I express my gratitude to Mr. Ma and give him an additional $25 for having appraised my bracelet last year. I allow him to take as many pictures of the necklace as he wants. While waiting, I ask him for his thought on whether I should visit China someday. He suggests that I should learn more about his people and the lost legion of Li Tian. Upon returning to the YMCA, the lady at the front desk inquires if my business with the jewelry store has concluded. I confirm that it has, and that I will be leaving the next morning. Rather than dreaming about how lots of money could change my life, I find myself reflecting on how much my outlook has changed since last year. I have come to realize that money is no longer my main concern. What matters more is that I now feel capable of facing challenges and making my own decisions with the resources I already have. I no longer believe that financial security alone is what guarantees tomorrow. Even though things are going well for me right now, I know that everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it is not yet the end. End of part 1. You are listening to an audio recording of the novel A Metis Far From Home, read to you by the author, Gerald Caron. Part 2, Chapter 12. Back to Île-à-la-Crosse, only to leave again. An early drive north, and 6 hours later, I'm in my hometown of Île-à-la-Crosse. I drive by the Northern Store, my last employer. I also pass by my old house and go directly to Manonk's place. I'm greeted warmly and served a delicious supper of slow-roasted moose meat with whole yellow potatoes cooked in it, just the way I like it. Given the limited space inside their small house, I decide to set up my tent in the backyard for a quieter sleep. The following morning, I pay a visit to my old school principal to discuss potential job prospects. As I sit in his office, I cannot help but feel a sense of nostalgia, being in the same chair I used to sit in years ago, but this time I'm not in trouble. The principal appears genuinely pleased with my recent accomplishments, and his pride is obvious. Despite my enthusiasm to offer my services as an educator, I am quickly brought back to reality. While the school needs teachers, they required fully certified teachers. Since many older members of my community are fluent in our language, all the positions requiring my language skills have all been filled. The principal offers to place me on the substitute teachers list, but according to the rule, he must prioritize those who are higher up on that list than I would be. It could be a long time before I could support myself financially working at my old school. As I return to my tent at Manonk's place, I find myself feeling lost and unsure of what to do next. However, things take an unexpected turn when my uncle returns home from work and shares some news with me. His workplace is closing for maintenance, leaving him and his colleagues out of work for the next 6 weeks. With a big forest fire raging in northern British Columbia, many members of my community are heading there to serve as firefighters. Anyone interested in joining the Forest Fire Brigade is required to take a 2-day training program to become certified. The best part is that the training is being offered for free in my hometown this weekend. This seems like an excellent opportunity, and I decide to join in. Thanks to the free training program, I am now a certified forest firefighter. I decide to leave my car behind and join the rest of the firefighters on an 18-hour journey by school bus to northern British Columbia. We set out in the morning, stop for the night halfway, and arrive at the fire site in British Columbia the next day. Upon arrival, we are responsible for lodging in our own tents, yet I'm prepared, having all the necessary equipment. As soon as we settle in, we are provided with batteries, flashlights, gloves, mattress, blanket, and other essential supplies, all free of charge. The camp has a fully equipped kitchen where we are provided with free food and snacks, as well as a shower house, toilets, and a first aid station. The work is demanding, but we are able to rest in the evenings. Despite the challenging nature of the work, I feel a great sense of fulfillment, knowing that I'm helping to combat a forest fire. A week into the task, I'm pleased to find that the relationship between the firefighters is excellent. The crews are comprised of a diverse group of people, including many Indigenous people, the Metis from my hometown, as well as regular Canadians, and some French Canadians. The French Canadians mostly hold leadership positions, such as team leaders, the camp nurse, and some of the higher forestry service administrators. Unfortunately, one evening during our time at the fire site, a fight broke between a member of my community and a regular Canadian. It was determined to be racially motivated incident. The camp management immediately took action to calm the situation and prevented any involvement of the media. The fight itself was very short-lived. Some of the firefighters were unwinding and having a loud conversation when the local Canadian man began to make derogatory comments about French Canadians, accusing them of being lazy and stealing jobs. Suddenly, a member from my community got up and punched the man right in the face, and the fight was over. That man never understood what had happened to him. In the morning, as we communicate in our native language, all the members from my group are aware of the fight that occurred the previous night. I go to the dining room for breakfast, where I see the camp nurse and a management guy conversing in French, presumably about the incident of the previous night. Surprised to hear them speaking French, I ask, "You guys speak French?" They replied, "Yes, we are originally from Quebec, but have been living out west for many years." I tell them, "I am French too." One man points out, "How can you be French if you do not speak French?" I answer, "I speak Michif, I'm Metis, and many of my ancestors were from Quebec, just like you." The conversation continues as the nurse removes his sunglasses. I notice his bright blue eyes. He is interested in knowing more about the fight, so I tell him everything that happened. I also explain to him that although my people do not speak French, many of us still consider ourselves to be French because of our Métis heritage. The nurse seems to understand, and we continue talking about our shared cultural roots. He tells me that he left Quebec many years ago, and he often spends time in China teaching English in the summer. But he decided not to go this year to help at the forest fire site. The bus is about to leave for the fire site, and I need to hurry to join my teammates. After a long day fighting fires, I look forward to a good meal and a warm shower back at the camp. During supper with mon oncle, the camp nurse joins us, and I strike up a conversation with him. "Tell me, in China, are things as strange as people say?" I ask. "What do you mean?" he responds. "Well, people eat dogs, rats, and weird things like that over there," I say. The camp nurse responds in asking if I had ever eaten Chinese food before. I answered yes, in Saskatoon, and it was quite good. He chuckles and responds with a joke. "If you ever go to Guangdong province, the people over there will eat anything that flies but an airplane. They'll eat anything that swims except for a submarine, and they will eat anything that stands on 4 legs except for the kitchen table or a chair. And worse, if they believe that you're from Fujian province, they might try to eat you." Despite the joke being oddly funny, I could not help but ask who told him that joke. He explained that it was a young university student from Guangdong province who was so proud of his province's reputation all over China. I could not hold back my laughter, questioning how could someone be proud of such thing. Uncle, who is sitting next to me, says, "This is the first time I remember seeing Neige laugh out loud like this." I wanted to learn more about China, so I asked the camp nurse some follow-up questions. "Did you enjoy your time in China?" I inquired. "Yes, he did," he replies. "People are very friendly and kind, the food is delicious, and the women are beautiful. However, there is one issue. I did not always feel safe when I was there. As a result, I tend to stick to 2 specific areas, Inner Mongolia and Langzhou City in Gansu province." This is when I remembered about Mr. Ma, who is from the same province in China. I asked the camp nurse why he does not feel safe in other areas of China. "It is because of my blood type," he replies. He goes on to explain that in China, there is an expression used to describe individual with Rh negative blood type. They are called panda blood. While O negative blood type is known to be a universal donor who represents about 7% of people in North America, they can only receive blood from O negative individuals. In China, only about 1 person out of 1,000 has this blood type, mainly foreigners in large cities and people of the north and western parts of China. The camp nurse prefers to stay in Inner Mongolia or Langzhou City in Gansu province because he's aware that those areas have higher concentration of O-negative blood people. He explains that if he was to be in another region of China and had an accident requiring a blood transfusion, it is likely that they would never find blood to give him, and he would simply be left to die. Despite this, he recommends that I consider going to China and become an English teacher, as the experience would be worth it. Although the pay is not good, he can provide me with contacts for an after-school program in Langzhou City, if I'm interested. I asked the camp nurse to teach me some things about the Chinese language the next day, in case I ever decide to visit China. As I look forward to another evening with the camp nurse, I am looking forward to another meal together. I could not wait to engage in another conversation. During our meal together, he explains that the Chinese writing system works like Egyptian hieroglyphs, as they are both logographic writing systems. The Chinese system uses lines or strokes instead of drawings where an image conveys an idea. It can also be a sound to phonetically pronounce words like Canada, which means Canada. Each of the 3 symbols represent one of the 3 sounds in the word Canada. In Chinese, normally one word is one sound, which is one idea. In this case, mei guo, the first symbol means beautiful, and the second one is country, and the two together mean USA. The fact that May means beautiful is only a coincidence. America has 4 syllables. The Chinese reduced it to 1. I am very interested in what he is saying, but now I want to know how the Chinese people call their country. He tells me that they call it Zhongguo. Now, but many years ago, it was called Huajia. Wait, do you mean to say that Huajia is China? I say amazed by what I had just heard. As prediction 14 comes to mind, I feel a rush of excitement. In the country of Huajia, thousands will want to see me. People will recognize me in the streets and call me by my name. They will insist in getting their pictures taken with me. I cannot help but ask the camp nurse about the photo-taking culture in China. There's something strange they do over there, especially in the more rural areas. When they see a foreigner, especially an attractive one, male or female, they want to have their picture taken with them, he points out. Feeling curious, I ask, do you think women would find me attractive over there? He chuckles and says, many Chinese women, just like South American women, are very impressed by blonde guys, and the blonder the better. They will see your blue eyes as something magical since it is so uncommon for them. I have decided to ask him for all the contact information he has to become an ESL teacher in Langzhou City via email. While I'm working fighting fires during the day in a burning forest of northern British Columbia, I wonder how on earth those Chinese people could know my name. But if they want to take pictures with me, I have no problem with that. I know where I'm going this fall. I'll be a teacher in Langzhou City in Gansu Province, China. In the days that follow, I do not see the camp nurse anymore, and I learn that he has been replaced. Thankfully, I have given him my email address, and I hope he will not forget to send me the contacts he has for China. It has now been 6 weeks, and the fire has been brought under control. The crews have started to return home. However, I still have not seen the camp nurse, and I am left hoping that when I return home, I will find an email from him with all the information I need. It is finally time to leave the fire camp. I get on the school bus for the 18-hour drive back home. Though the work was incredibly hard, the pay is excellent. After taxes, I have made over $10,000 for just 6 weeks of intense labor. It dawns on me that my bank account must be over $32,000, and I still have the necklace with me. Chapter 13. Back to Île-à-la-Croix, now going to China. After a long bus ride, we finally arrive in Île-à-la-Croix, and the entire town greets us with warmth and joy, treating us like heroes. During the recent devastating forest fire, the Canadian media had repeatedly praised the courageous firefighters who saved lives and protected the forest. After a well-deserved night's rest in my tent at my uncle's place, I feel rejuvenated and ready to make my way to the public library, where they had recently installed a computer with a dial-up internet access. Excitedly, I log into my email account and find all the necessary contact information to proceed with my trip to China. My first step towards my new adventure is to obtain my passport, followed by the necessary work visa from the Chinese consulate in Calgary. Despite the slow back and forth communication by mail, I'm finally granted the proper visa after weeks of waiting. With my work visa in hand, the only remaining task is to purchase the plane ticket for my adventure to begin. My travel itinerary is as follows. I will take a bus from Île-à-la-Croix to Saskatoon, where I will catch my first flight to Calgary. From Calgary, I will board a flight to Shanghai, and finally, I will take a connecting flight to Langzhou City. As I prepare to embark on my new adventure, I have decided to leave my car at Manonk's place for his wife to use. The car is still plated and insured until the spring, and I have already signed the necessary documents to transfer its ownership to my uncle, free of charge in case I do not return from my trip. My suitcase is packed with clothing. I even bring my favorite green toque and a winter jacket as it gets cold in Western China in the winter. I also bring my precious necklace, but no camping equipment this time. With all my preparations in order, I am eager to start my new adventure. Compared to my previous 18-hour ride on a school bus to fight fires, this journey to China is much longer and more exhausting. It involves a 7-hour bus ride, a 2-hour flight followed by a 12-hour flight, crossing the international date line, customs, and immigration protocols in China, and a 14-hour time difference. After a long wait at the Shanghai airport, I finally board my 3-hour connecting flight to Langzhou City. Upon landing, I get my luggage and walk towards the airport exit. At one point, I notice a Chinese man holding a sign with my name written on it. He greets me and takes me to a hotel. The car ride is hectic, with neon lights and unfamiliar Chinese symbols flashing everywhere. The constant noise is intimidating, and I begin to wonder how I will ever get used to it. Upon reaching the hotel, I present my passport, and they make a copy of the first page before handing me a card that looks like a credit card. The hotel clerk informs me that everything has been paid for in advance. Upon reaching my room, I use the card to open the door. Once inside, I realize there's no electricity. It takes me a while to figure out that I need to insert the card in a particular slot to activate the power in the room. It is a clever system that turns off all electrical appliances when you leave simply by removing the card on your way out. I am too exhausted to explore the city or even unpack, so I decide to take a shower and head directly to bed. The bed feels comfortable and I fall asleep immediately, grateful for a comfortable rest. Chapter 14, Life in China. It is October 1st, 2001. I wake up in the middle of the night and decide to explore my hotel room. I find a safe where I can store my valuables, such as my necklace, money, and my passport. While checking the hallway, I notice a note on my door indicating a meeting at 9 a.m. in the lobby with the after-school program manager. However, it is 4 a.m. China time and still very dark outside. I find myself unable to get back to sleep. To pass the time, I tried watching some TV, but unfortunately, I cannot understand anything. There are no channels in English. Eventually, I decide to head out to the front desk and ask the clerk if it is safe for me to walk outside at night. The clerk, who speaks broken English, reassures me when he says, "You big, tall, no danger." He hands me a business card of the hotel and says, "You lost, you show card taxi." As I walk along the empty streets, I noticed a few Chinese men out preparing for their business to open. They appear to be surprised by my presence. I can't help but notice that the people in China are much smaller and thinner than in Canada. It occurs to me that the locals might see me as tall, imposing, and different. I continue walking until eventually I decide to go back to my hotel. At 9 a.m., I finally meet my new employer, a professional and elegant Chinese woman in her early 30s. She invites me for a Western-style breakfast and provides me with all the information about my classes, the age of my students, the programs I need to follow, and my schedule. She points out that I will be covered by their health insurance, and if I need medical assistance, she will guide me through it. I am relieved to hear that my accommodation will be at the hotel, which is conveniently located next to the after-school program. Since it is the Golden Week, the national holiday, most government offices and school programs are closed for the week. As a welcoming present, my new boss gives me a red envelope containing Chinese money. She says that it is part of the tradition in China and that it will allow me to make purchases until the following week when she will bring me to a bank to open an account. In the red envelope, I find 666 yuan, 6 bills of 100, 6 tens, and 6 ones. She tells me that the number is very significant as it refers to success and everything being awesome. I feel a bit strange as this number is not so positive in my culture. But I'm not in Canada anymore. If she says that it is a lucky number, then it is okay with me. She also informs me that I can expect my first pay at the end of the month, which, although not very high, will be fine considering the low cost of living in China and the fact that my hotel cost is covered. In the afternoon, someone knocks at my hotel door. A young Chinese man, about my age and quite friendly looking, introduces himself as Yang Haorang. But you can call me Harry, he says. He tells me that he is a teacher at the same after-school program and that we will work together. He has brought me some mooncakes, as it is the tradition at this time of the year. I look at what he calls cakes. They look like small light brown hockey pucks. They have a red design on them. I try one. It feels a bit heavy, yet I'm expecting something moist and sweet. Instead, it is quite hard and a bit salty and not really sweet at all. I try to remain polite and ask what flavor it is. He points out that it is lotus seed paste with a salted egg yolk center. And suddenly, I'm not so interested in those pastries anymore. He insists for me to try a different one, but before accepting it, I ask what the flavor is. Red bean paste, he tells me. I conclude that it might take me some time to adjust and develop a taste for those Chinese traditional pastries. Harry tells me that my arrival on October 1st, 2001, is very special because not only it coincides with the Chinese national holiday, the Golden Week, but also the Mid-Autumn Festival. He informs me that the other staff members and the children have been talking about my arrival for the last week with great anticipation. They have only seen a picture I had sent with my application, and they're really looking forward to finally seeing me. He adds that I will be the first foreigner the students have ever met. The only people who look like me they have ever seen were on TV, so for them, I will be some kind of celebrity. Before leaving, I ask him why he wants me to call him by a name that is different from his real name, Yang Haorang. He explains that since foreigners have a lot of difficulty pronouncing most Chinese names, and that it is normal for a child to be given a Western name by his first English teacher to make it easier to communicate with foreigners. That name is never legal, so it can be changed if the person doesn't like it anymore. To make it easier to remember, the Western name often sounds like their real name. Haoran sounds like Harry. This is why he got that name. On his way out, he tells me that he will be back the next morning to take me out for a Chinese-style breakfast. Too early for me, the following morning, Harry is at the door inviting me for breakfast. He says I will be getting some dujiang and yujiao, and I have no idea what to expect. I tell him that he will have to wait because I didn't shower yet. He appears to be surprised and wonder why I don't shower in the evening. I quickly learned that people in China usually shower at night and none in the morning, like in Canada. I explained that where I'm from, only those who work in physically demanding jobs will shower in the evening, while those who work in offices or with the public will shower in the morning. The restaurant is very modest and we sit outside for our meal. My breakfast consists of two things, a bowl of a white liquid and a dough stick. First, I tried the golden long crisp breadstick, and I'm happy to realize that it is a type of fried bannock, but lighter. It still has the taste of home. Harry asks me if I like it, and I tell him that fried dough is very common where I'm from, but we don't usually have it for breakfast. The next thing I need to try is that warm milk, looking liquid in a bowl. It tastes like milk, and combined with the yu jiao, it creates a delicious morning meal. When Harry realized how much I like the fried dough he calls yu jiao, he suggested for the next morning that we would go to another restaurant and have jiang bing guaozi for breakfast. He explains that it is a thin pancake with eggs, green onions, spices, and the same fried dough sticks. It is then flipped to make into a kind of breakfast sandwich. I'm now looking forward to my next breakfast with him. Later that day, Harry reminds me that I should accompany him to the river where there is to be a release of sky lanterns tonight. He explains that they are made of paper with small candles inside. This allows them to rise into the evening sky. People write wishes for them for health, happiness, and good fortune. I must admit that it is very impressive. It is beautiful to see hundreds of lanterns flying over the river at night, one of the most spectacular events I have ever witnessed so far in China. On the weekend, Harry invites me to join his family for a hike up a local mountain. He says that it is like a tradition for many to take a walk up a mountain around the Mid-Autumn Festival. He points out that it will be an opportunity for me to see the countryside and be away from the city for the day. As the weekend comes around, I end up in a car with my new friend, his mom, dad, and a younger cousin. Even though I enjoyed their company, I can only talk with Harry since nobody else can understand English. Since his cousin first saw me, he keeps staring at me. And more specifically, he seems to be very interested in my hair. When I was not paying too much attention, I began to feel someone touching me. Surprised, I had an instant reaction, and the cousin pulled his hand away. I asked Harry why his cousin is trying to touch my hair. He tells me that I will have to learn that in China, personal spaces are not the same as in the West, and because his cousin has never seen golden hair before, he couldn't resist touching it. The mountain climb is more a walk where parts are done by getting on a bus. Along the way, there are little souvenir shops, restaurants, and stands where cold drinks are sold. As the path is getting a bit steeper, people are stopped and there's a big sign warning about the dangers of forest fire. At that exact place, a young government agent takes away lighters and matches from people wanting to continue their climb up the mountain. My friend explains that it is to ensure that people will not be causing fires as the top of the mountain is even drier than the base, and the risk of fire is increased. We finally make it to the top of the mountain and enjoyed the spectacular view of the whole area. Walking down the mountain is much faster, and we make it back down to the parking lot before nightfall. As we are in the car driving towards the city, before arriving to my hotel, Harry's father asked me through my translator, if I would like to eat Beijing duck for supper. I accept, and we are now at a restaurant. Before the meal is served, the waiter brings some small teacups and a teapot, and we begin to drink warm green tea and no cold water. As the meal is served, there is a platter of duck meat with the head, but without bones. The plate has cucumber slices, green onions, strips of carrots, granuled sugar, and a black sauce, and some small flat rice bread. I'm expected to put some duck meat on the small flat bread with cucumber and black sauce. Roll it and eat it. It is quite good, while the sauce is both salty and sweet. There are also 3 different platters of vegetable and a sweet and sour pork dish. I notice that we are provided with a small individual plate, but the food dishes are placed on a spinning table where the top can turn to access the food you want. Only a bowl of rice is provided individually. I'm expected to use chopsticks to get food out of the common serving platter. I'm getting nervous as my ability to eat with chopsticks is very limited, let alone picking from common service plates. People begin to eat, and I'm holding my sticks not knowing how they should be used. I take the courage to tell Harry that it will not be able to eat anything other than the duck part. He looks at me with the biggest smile and asks something to the waiter. He comes back with a plate and a spoon. Harry uses the spoon to take some food from the common platters and make a plate just for me and says, "With your own plate and spoon, you should be fine to eat now." I look at him with the smile of a satisfied customer, happy not to have to deal with chopsticks. Towards the end of the meal, a soup is served. It is made from the bones of the duck we ate. The soup is served in individual bowls, but there's another strange thing for me. My bowl of soup is half filled with bones. I tried to scoop the broth with my spoon, not knowing what to do with all these bones. I soon realized that everyone is picking the bones clean and dropping them on the table, so I simply do what everyone else is doing. Soon enough, I'm driven home, eager to fall asleep. The following day, I'm invited to a restaurant to try a famous soup, which is a specialty of the region. It is called the Langzhou beef noodle soup. It is a simple soup with noodles and a small piece of beef with some herbs and green onions. It is quite tasty and delicious. I'm told that it is a traditional food from the local Hui Muslim community. A few weeks pass by and I'm gradually adjusting to my new surroundings. As I stroll through the streets of my neighborhood, I cannot help but feel like a celebrity. Everywhere I go, locals turn their heads to catch a glimpse of me, and some even try to strike up a conversation. While their English is very limited, they're very friendly and eager to communicate, especially the younger ones. Chapter 15. My first holidays away from home. Today is not a normal Wednesday. It is October 31st. Normally, for my birthday, there is Halloween with its decorations, the costumes, and the candies. But in China, there is nothing. I feel nostalgic and I miss home for the first time. Today, I turned 19 years old, and I'm now an adult everywhere in Canada. Before my classes, I go to the office at my workplace where there is an internet access where I can send and receive emails. I check my account, but nothing. Then I think about the fact that it is still yesterday in Canada. Maybe tomorrow, people will have remembered my birthday. During my classes, I received birthday cards from all the students. Harry got them to work on that as a class project the previous day. And today I received 32 cards with the same message and a hand-drawn picture of me with yellow hair. The following day, it is November 1st. but still yesterday in Canada. As I access my email account, there are 2 messages from Canada. The first one is from Grandma. She wants to wish me a happy birthday and questions why I'm not sending her more information about my life far away. Her friends keep on asking about me, and she would really want to tell them more about my adventures in China. The second message is from Mr. Hope from Steinbach. The tone is very serious. It points out that he has had placed a note about me for this date in his agenda. He was committed to pass on my email address to Mr. Cohen today. Sadly, his friend has suffered a stroke recently, and he is no longer coherent. Mr. Hope points out that his friend had intended to reach out to me on this day, wanting to share more about the time I lived with his family as a boy. But he will not be able to. His wife Margaret is not well either, and has lost a lot of autonomy after caring and worrying about her husband so much. Life is fragile, and sometimes we push what we want to do into the future, not realizing that we may not be able to. This message reminds me that often we regret to appreciate the present while focusing on the things we will do later. The later may never come, and I will never know the memories that he wanted to share with me, but I have to accept it. One morning, as I'm walking to get some groceries at a local supermarket, I notice something. A new car drives recklessly, swerving into incoming traffic while appearing to be out of control. A cargo truck coming from the opposite direction slams right into it, causing a loud noise and a lot of damage to the car. I stay to offer my assistance as a witness. Despite the chaos, people start taking pictures of the accident and even of me. While some called for emergency services with their cell phones, I notice that no one is tending to the person injured in the car. Soon the police arrive, followed by an ambulance and a TV news crew. One reporter who speaks some English comes towards me and begins to ask me questions not related to the accident, but about myself. He inquires about my name, my country of origin, my impressions of China, and where I'm staying. I answer his questions, not so sure why he seems to be more interested in me than the actual accident that just happened. After this unexpected experience, I continue with my routine of teaching late afternoon and evening classes. When I return to the hotel, I notice the clerk at the front desk is watching a news program on TV. To my surprise, I see myself on Chinese television. The clerk notices my reaction and points out that he's seeing me on TV. This news broadcast must have been widely watched, as I notice even more people staring at me during my daily errands. When I arrive at work, every staff member is talking about the event of the previous day, and even students mention having seen me on TV. However, this short-lived fame dies down and things get back to normal. One morning, there's a knock on my hotel room door. To my surprise, it is the same reporter who interviewed me at the accident scene. He invites me for an interview at the TV station, stating that the public has requested to know more about me and my impressions of China. A week later, the TV interview airs, and I notice that all the conversations are subtitled in Chinese, making it easier for the viewers to understand my answers. As a result, even more people recognize me everywhere, and some even call me by my name. As time passes, days become weeks, and soon enough, we are Tuesday, December 25th, and a very strange feeling invades me. For the first time of my life, there is no special music, no colored lights everywhere, and no Christmas trees. When I get to my first class, all the children and staff wish me Merry Christmas, and I take on my educational role as though it is just another day. Christmas is not celebrated in China, but people know that in the West it is an important day. I was never much of a religious person, so for me it is the family reunions, the traditional foods, and the gifts that have always been more important. But today, what I'm missing the most is Grandma, mon oncle, and my community in northern Canada. As we get to the long-awaited winter holiday for the traditional Chinese New Year, there are red decorations everywhere. There are lots of images of horses and all sorts of red and gold decorations. I'm invited to join Harry's family for the Laba Festival, a local custom marking the lead-up to the Chinese New Year. I wear my heaviest coat, yet I can barely feel my toes as I stand outside helping Harry's father hang red paper decorations in the cold. Later, during the family's traditional dumpling making session, I'm asked to help, but I can't replicate the elegant folds Harry's and his cousins create. As night falls, the family sets fireworks off, their colors reflecting off the snow-covered hills. This gives me an idea, and I offer to make taffy on the snow. It takes me a lot of explaining to convince them of the idea. I explain that it is a common tradition in my country, mainly in Quebec, to pour hot syrup over fresh snow to create chewy candies. The family is quite intrigued, and they can barely understand what I'm offering to do. Normally, it is done using maple syrup, but I can't find that here. So I borrow a pot, mix some hard sugar with some water, and begin to bring it to a boil. When I believe that it is about right, I pour the golden liquid onto a patch of untouched snow in the courtyard. Harry's cousins burst into laughter as I try to pry it up the sticky mess with chopsticks, only to taste it and declare, "Delicious!" The children quickly joined in, scraping up bits of caramelized snow candy, and even Harry's grandmother tried some, nodding approvingly. Chapter 16. The Accident That Changed Everything. It has now been 5 months since my arrival in China, and as I reflect on how much my life has changed from 2 years ago, I cannot help but feel grateful for how well everything is going for me. I realize that I no longer find myself dwelling on the shaman's prophecies, perhaps because I no longer need to hold on to a message of hope as much as I once did. During one of my many walks in the city, I go through a busy street market. As the weather is getting much colder, I begin wearing a light green toque that I brought from Canada. I noticed a shift in people's attitude towards me. Some people smile, point at me, and call on their friends' attention. Then they all laugh. Despite their strange behaviors, I make no connection with my hat and feel happy as I continue walking along the busy streets. As I step out into a busy intersection, I realize too late that I had not looked to my left. Suddenly, time stands still as a city bus comes towards me, screeching to a halt with a loud crash. It is me. The impact of the bus's bumper against my left leg breaks the bone and pierces an artery at the level of my lower left hip. The left side of my head slams against the lower right side of the bus's windshield, and my entire body bounces onto the pavement, where the back of my head hits the curb. Struggling to regain consciousness, I become aware that my left leg and head are bleeding badly. All I can think is that I need to wait for an ambulance, and I fear that I will most likely die on a cold February morning so far away from home. I think about mon oncle and grandma who might never know what happened to me. I cannot get up. I see people calling on their phones, and others are taking pictures of me. I feel extremely weak. Suddenly, someone is touching me. I turn my head to the left, open my eyes, and there I see an old man with small green eyes. He smiles and says, "You European, me Roman, me help you." Someone is ripping my pants. I feel like a baby whose diaper is being changed. Someone is tying something precisely where it is the most painful. I want to push that person away. Nothing is responding anymore, and I become unconscious. As I slip into a world of dreams, I find myself amidst a battle between Romans and Vikings, with pandas trying to overpower me. In the chaos, I can hear the comforting voice of the native shaman whispering, "Everything will be okay in the end. If it is not okay, it is not the end." And I stop fighting the pandas and find peace in those words. This dream keeps reoccurring, and I lose track of time until I finally manage to open my eyes. I find myself in a hospital bed surrounded by all sorts of machines and tubes. I'm wearing a diaper and a tube is coming out. A small table beside my bed holds my bloodied green toque and the things I was wearing on the day of the accident. A girl about my age is sitting next to the table reading a magazine. She notices my movement and approaches me. Her presence calms me down. She looks like an angel with her light brown hair and blue-gray eyes. She is beautiful. "It seems like you are coming back to life. You have been in this bed for 10 days, she explains. That she has been assigned to be my translator. Her name is Song Mei Ri, but I should call her Mary. And she works for the Regional Tourism Bureau of the province. She points out that my accident has been widely followed by the media and that people will be relieved to hear that I'm doing better. She tells me all about her father, who has passed away recently of a skiing accident, and her dog named Café. Later, she arranges a meeting with hospital administration and informs them that in the West it is common practice for pets to be brought into hospitals to make patients feel better. The authorities determine that since I'm a Westerner, they would allow a special exemption for cultural reasons. The next day, with permission in hand, she brings her dog into the facility. When they enter my room, the dog takes a quick look at me and jumps right onto my bed. It is crazy how much that dog loves me. Café tries to lick my face. I like dogs, but this is a little too much affection for a first meeting. Trying to be funny, I say, "No kissing on the first date," and Mary starts laughing as she forces the dog off my bed and calms it down. As I slowly begin to recover, Marie explains the event of the last weeks. She and her family are from Litian, a very rural area, but now they live in Lanzhou City. Her grandfather, Mr. Song, a passionate of history, was on the bus during the accident and helped me by bandaging my wounds, preventing more blood loss. When I ask her why her grandfather helped me, she tells me about the Lost Legion of Litian, a group of Roman soldiers believed to have settled in China 2,000 years ago. Marie's grandfather believes he is a descendant of those Romans. which is supported by his green eyes, a rarity among Chinese people. Marie reveals another uniqueness of her people, the panda blood, who have O-negative blood, another rarity in China. She and many of her family members shared this blood type. Then she points out that it is my blood type too. As Marie leaves, I recall Prophecy 6, where my blood type was determined before my birth and almost caused my death in adulthood. I still have so many questions, but unfortunately nobody can understand me except my translator Marie. The following day, shortly after lunch, Marie arrives right after a team of nurses surrounds my bed. They consist of 2 men and 2 women, and they start removing my blankets. I begin to panic, feeling vulnerable and exposed. Suddenly, they lift me up and remove my diaper, causing me to protest and request for Marie to leave immediately. But Marie explains that she has been asked to be here every day at this time to calm me down, as I often fought with the staff in my sleep, while they were just doing their job. To comfort me, she would repeat a quote from the Buddhist philosophy, "Everything will be okay in the end. If it is not okay, it is not the end." That would calm me down, and I would stop fighting the nurses. Later that day, I was questioning Marie about everything that had happened. I was curious to know why her grandfather had helped me at the site of the accident. First, my grandfather is from a rural community in China where people are prone to directly help each other, and he saw the TV program you were on. When he saw that you were bleeding badly, he believed that he had to help or you would have died on the street that day. Marie explains, he knows that European descendants are more likely to have negative blood types, which is extremely rare in China, and you were losing a lot of blood. But he called me European, while I'm a Metis from Canada, I say. Just think of it this way, Marie replies. If it was not for my grandfather believing he is a Roman and my family members, including me, donating blood for you, you would be a dead Métis from Canada. So whether you accept it or not, we are now blood related. So you are part of my family, she says. And what if I don't want to be part of your family, I ask. Then you need to give us our blood back, she said with a smile. Chapter 17, A Long Recovery. The next day, a TV crew arrives in my room. The interview has a clear patriotic tone to it, highlighting the efforts of the Chinese people who helped save my life. The focus is on how a wise and brave old man provided life-saving first aid on site to a careless young foreigner from Canada. They also point to the bus driver's effort to prevent the accident and the quick reaction of the bus riders who called the emergency services, leading to a well-organized response that saved my life. The hospital workers are also put on display for their crucial role in my recovery using the latest technology available. During the interview, I express my gratitude towards the people who have taken such good care of me. As I was worried about the hospital bills, I asked Marie how it would be paid for. She explains that the school I worked for had an insurance policy that covers most of the costs and her employer is paying for the rest. However, she mentions that I will be expected to participate in promotional activities later to boost tourism in the region among Chinese tourists. Noticing my blood-stained toque on the table, Marie comments, I would never let my boyfriend wear a hat like that. As she is leaving, she leans in and whispered softly in my ear, by the way, I do not have a boyfriend right now, just so you know. Weeks pass by slowly and my recovery is both challenging and demanding. During my stay at the hospital, I'm informed that my belongings at the hotel where I lived are kept safe. Finally, I'm discharged from the hospital and taken to a hotel room in a wheelchair. Marie continues to visit me every afternoon, providing me with moral support and translation services. Although I'm not receiving a salary, all my expenses are covered. Two main things are expected of me: to learn how to walk again and learn to speak Chinese. Many weeks later, as my Chinese language skills have improved a lot, I sit down with Marie's grandfather, Mr. Song, and ask if he would accept if Mary and I were to get married. The biggest smile lit up his face, and he said, "Yes, for sure, I accept." We are now engaged, and the wedding will be soon. Marie guided me through the ceremony. As the evening went on, the differences between culture blurred into shared joy. Marie and I danced under the red lanterns. Our laughters could be heard far away. I've moved into Marie's small apartment, and we are now the three of us living together: Marie, her dog Café, and I. A long time has passed since the terrible bus accident, and I can now walk on my own, although sometimes I need a cane when my left leg gets tired. As my language skills have improved, my fame has also increased. I am often recognized when walking the streets, even in neighboring cities. It is now a daily occurrence for people of all age to call out my name and request a picture with me. I've been able to leverage my newfound fame and language skills to advertise products and make appearances as a special guest on Chinese TV shows. My career path has taken an unimaginable turn for the best. On May 1st, 2003, I noticed a change in Mary's appearance. She seems to be experiencing some health issues, including dizziness and vomiting in the morning, and her appetite has significantly increased. Concerned, we visit a doctor who confirms the news that we are going to have a baby. Our little one is due to arrive in November, and we are both overjoyed at the news. Later that year, Marie becomes more anxious. She insists that we move into a bigger and nicer apartment, and we quickly find a newer place in the city. It seems that she is worried about having enough money to support our growing family. In the early fall, I receive an email from Rocky Mountain Penitentiary informing me that my father is being granted early release from jail after serving 21 years. They ask how I could contribute to his reinsertion back into society. I shared the news with Marie, and although we had a heated discussion, she eventually accepts my decision. Since I still have almost $30,000 in my Canadian bank account, I decide to transfer $10,000 to my father. This represents his share of inheritance from my mother, as they were never officially divorced. My father was my maternal grandmother's surviving legal son-in-law. I believe he has a rightful claim to her estate. The money was transferred with a note explaining that he is welcome to move to China, where he could assume his role as a grandfather. However, the decision is his to make. I decide to reach out to my grandmother via email. I sent her a long message about my father and how I hope that she can find peace in her heart and the strength to reach out to her son, who is about to be released from jail. I tell her about the money I have sent him and how, with her help, maybe he could reestablish himself as a contributing member of the society. I share with her the email address of the jail and point out Amadou as a contact. About 2 weeks before the delivery date of the baby, Marie calls me aside to have a conversation. She tells me that without my permission, she had taken my necklace to an expert jeweler for an estimate of its value. She then explains that if sold, it would provide us with enough money to buy a nicer apartment, a new car, everything the baby needs, and some money left for emergencies. I remain composed and take my time before responding. I point out to her that the necklace is worth more than her jeweler's estimate and that we should not make any hasty decisions. I explain that it would take time to set appropriate protocols to ensure that we get its fair value, and I ask her to leave me in charge of those dealings. She smiles and seems relieved as we close the discussion. One evening, Marie is admitted to the hospital. I look out the window and see the first snowfall of the year. At 11:11 a.m. on November 11, 2003, our baby boy is born with striking features, blue eyes, and white hair. One thing now needs to be decided: his name. We will call him Xue Xiaozi, which means Little Swamp Snow Jr. Upon the birth of the baby, I sent an email to my grandmother with a picture informing her that she is now a great-grandmother and that her great-grandson is a healthy baby boy with white hair and bright blue eyes just like hers. Marie is doing well, and she's well being taken care by her mother. The following day, I receive a response. Grandma tells me that Father now lives with her and her husband in St. Boniface. He has decided to register for some training as a heavy-duty mechanic. He promised that once he will have established himself with a career and a new life in Canada, he will visit his grandson in China. The apartment is now equipped with all the needed items, and our baby is well taken care of. However, Marie brings up the topic of the necklace. I reassured her, pointing out that I still have almost $20,000 in my Canadian bank account. My new career is going well, and we have savings in our Chinese bank accounts. The necklace is not for sale because it belongs to our son. I remind her that everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it is not yet the end. The end.